Chapter 44:14. That's right. Lu Ming's opponent this round was Yichu Qianyue. Lu Ming took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Yichu Qianyue also landed on the fighting ring and stood opposite Lu Ming. However, his face was extremely ugly. He stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy and dignified face. His whole body was covered with the power of heaven and he looked very nervous. Yichu Qianyue, we finally met. Very good. Come on. Lu Ming said. However, Yichu Qianyue did not dare to make a move. He stared at Lu Ming motionlessly and prepared himself. He did not dare to make a move because once he made a move, he would expose his flaws. Yichu Qianyue, are you going to admit defeat? I remember that you and Gilbert were singing the same tune as each other. You looked as if you were certain that you'd be able to defeat me. You personally said that you'd kill me once. Where did your heroic spirit go? I'm standing right here, so come and kill me. Lu Ming continued to shout. Damn it! Yichu Qianyue roared in his heart. His face was distorted because of anger. Lu Ming was picking on his scars in public and slapping his face in public. Yes, not long ago he threatened to kill Lu Ming and make Lu Ming regret offending him. Now, Lu Ming was standing in front of him, but he did not dare to make a move. In fact, he knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If he made a move against Lu Ming, he would probably be humiliated. The fate of the heavenly human tribesman who fought with Lu Ming was still vivid in his mind. However, if he did not make a move, he would take the initiative to admit defeat. He was the son of heaven. If he admitted defeat without a fight, he would lose all his face. However, if he fought, he would probably be humiliated by Lu Ming. Yichu Qianyue was in a dilemma. The main reason was that he had boasted before. No matter what choice he made now, combined with the previous one, the degree of humiliation would be doubled. If he did not have his previous words, he would have fought with all his strength. Even if he lost, it would be fine. But with his own words, things were different. No matter what choice he made, his reputation in the heavenly human tribe would definitely take a huge hit. His strength was considered the weakest among the 9 heavenly daughters. He had yet to master one of his 2 heavenly forces. If his prestige suffered another blow, it would be very detrimental to his future development. He really hated Lu Ming. He believed that all of this was caused by Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't care what Yi Qianyue thought. He sneered and said, since you refuse to admit defeat, let's fight. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming stepped out. His body was like a phantom as he rushed toward Yichu Qianyue. Yichu Qianyue's face was extremely solemn. Finally, he gritted his teeth and retreated rapidly. As he retreated, his body began to tremble and then other figures began to appear. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Yichu Qianyue appeared on the fighting ring. Dozens of figures were wandering around the fighting ring. At the same time, streaks of white lightning were constantly striking toward Lu Ming. Yichu Qianyue knew that he was no match for Lu Ming in a head-on confrontation. Therefore he planned to fight with Lu Ming in a guerrilla way. Then he would find a chance to admit defeat. If that was the case, he would lose less face. However, how could Lu Ming not know what he was thinking? Would he give him a chance to do so? Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed into the sky and then dived down toward the fighting ring. The moment he dived down, Lu Ming performed the heaven-breaking move. His whole body turned into a long spear. The long spear swayed and endless spear radiance burst out toward Yichu Qianyue's dozens of figures. The long spears were densely packed and shrouded all of Yichu Qianyue's figures, making it impossible for him to escape. Seeing that he could not avoid the spear radiance, Yichu Qianyue roared and unleashed the 2 supreme heavenly forces to the extreme to resist the spear radiance. However, Lu Ming had unleashed 12-star battle strength. Yichu Qianyue was considered weak among the 11-star battle strength. He could not withstand Lu Ming's attack in a head-on confrontation. The spear radiance pierced through Yichu Qianyue's figures, turning them into energy and disappearing. In the end, there was only one figure left on the fighting ring. He was constantly moving and dodging the spear radiance's attack. This figure was Yichu Qianyue's real body. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. He condensed a long spear with the forbidden force in his hand and threw it out with all his strength. The long spear turned into a dazzling radiance and stabbed toward Yichu Qianyue. It was too fast. Yichu Qianyue wanted to dodge but found that he was locked on. It was impossible to dodge. Ah, block it for me! Yichu Qianyue roared. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. The 2 supreme heavenly forces burst out crazily and converged into an attack to block the long spear. Boom! The 2 attacks collided with each other. There was an earth-shattering roar and energy overflowed. However, the confrontation between the 2 attacks did not last for long. In merely a few moments, Yi Qinyue's attacks were unable to withstand the attacks of the long spear and were continuously defeated. In the end, the long spear successfully penetrated Yi Qinyue's attack and pierced through his chest. The long spear pierced through Yi Qinyue's chest. If the fighting ring was not so hard, Yi Qinyue would have been nailed to the fighting ring. Even so, the powerful force of the long spear still dragged Yi Qinyue to the distance. Yi Qinyue was dragged by the long spear. He spat out a mouthful of blood and exerted all his strength to resist the terrifying energy of the long spear. If he did not resist, the energy of the long spear was enough to blow him up. Even so, Yi Qinyue was seriously injured. Lu Ming followed closely behind. He caught up with Yi Qinyue and stepped on his head. "Ah, I admit defeat, I admit defeat," Yi Qinyue shouted crazily. If he did not admit defeat, his face would be stepped on by Lu Ming in public. It was an unbearable humiliation for him. At least it would be better to admit defeat. He thought that Lu Ming would stop after he admitted defeat. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Lu Ming did not intend to stop. With a bang, Lu Ming's foot stepped on one side of Yi Qinyue's face. The violent force pressed Yi Qinyue's head and smashed it into the fighting ring. The other side of Yi Qinyue's face was smashed into the fighting ring. It shook violently and his face was badly mutilated. Ah! Yi Qinyue struggled crazily and screamed crazily as if he had gone crazy. He was really stepped on by Lu Ming in the face. Moreover, this was in public. He was the son of heaven. This was a great humiliation. Yi Qinyue was not the only one who found it hard to accept. The other members of the heavenly human tribe also found it hard to accept. Their eyes were red and filled with cold killing intent. "Lu Ming, you broke the rules. Yi Qinyue has already admitted defeat. You still stepped on him. Spirit of Taishang Immortal City, please punish him." Chapter 44:15. There were rules in the battle for the origin seed. Once one side admitted defeat, the other side could not continue to attack. Once they broke the rules, they would be punished. That was why the Lord of Heaven shouted, "Nonsense, I didn't break the rules. Before Yi Qinyue admitted defeat, my foot had already stepped out. When he shouted at the last minute, how could I stop my foot? Due to the inertia, I continued to step forward. I didn't do it on purpose." He can only blame himself for admitting defeat too late. Lu Ming said indifferently, You're lying." The Lord of Heaven shouted. Lu Ming didn't break the rules. At this moment, the old voice of the Taishang Immortal City sounded again. The people of the heavenly human tribe almost vomited blood. "Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it," the people of the heavenly human tribe kept shouting in their hearts. Their burning anger seemed to be burning them. However, they couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. "Get lost, son of heaven, that's all you can do." Lu Ming waved his hand and a force rolled out. Yi Qinyue's body was sent flying out of the fighting ring. "Lu Ming, don't be too arrogant now. I'm waiting to fight with you," Yi Qinyue shouted from the other fighting ring. This was because Lu Ming's words had also included Yi Qinyue. He had belittled Son of Heaven to be worthless. "Oh, Yi Qinyue, you want to challenge me? I advise you to think twice before you speak. Don't be like Yi Qinyue, who is in a dilemma and slaps his own face." Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming's meaning was obvious. He didn't want Yi Qinyue to be so full of himself so that he wouldn't be embarrassed later. However, his voice was full of sarcasm. How could Yi Qinyue not hear it? "Lu Ming, although you also possess a 12-star combat strength, there are differences in strength even among the 12-star. I will suppress you," Yi Qinyue said confidently. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never tasted defeat at the same level. Even Yiling Hongye was only on par with him. He had long cultivated the belief that he was invincible. Even if Lu Ming also possessed 12-star battle prowess, even if Lu Ming controlled the taboo physique, he was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming. Ultimate power of the heavens might not necessarily be weaker than taboo power. Is that so? I hope you can do it. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the lotus. Just like that, Lu Ming obtained 10 consecutive victories, while Yi Qinyue's winning streak came to an end. The battles on the various battle platforms continued. But from time to time, an exciting battle would break out. On each battle platform there were terrifying experts. Those heavenly maidens weren't invincible, they weren't without opponents. Behind them, Dark Knight Rose, Injioling, Autumn Moon, and the others all attacked the heavenly daughter. Among them, Dark Knight Rose easily won, shocking everyone once again. 12-star battle prowess. Yes, another peerless genius with 12-star battle prowess had appeared, and that was Dark Knight Rose. Not long after, Wuxia also defeated a son of heaven and also displayed 12-star battle prowess. Everyone at the scene was already numb. Since when did 12-star battle prowess become so worthless? Until now, the heavenly human tribe had already produced 3 12-star battle prowess. They were Yi Qiuxin, Yi Chu Tianji, and Yiling Hongye. Outside of the heavenly human tribe, there were even more 12-star battle prowess. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen, Dark Knight Rose. In the past, those with 12-star battle prowess were enough to suppress the universe for an era. But now, 7 of them had appeared at the same time. It was really rare since the birth of the universe. And there were even more with 11-star battle prowess. The 7 heavenly maidens of the heavenly human tribe. Dandan, Bubbles, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Emperor Jenny, Yin Jioling, and Heaven Destroyer. It was worth mentioning that on the Universe Prodigy list, there was also someone with 11-star battle prowess. This was also out of everyone's expectations. Previously, everyone thought that the strongest person on the Universe Prodigy list only had 10-star battle prowess. This person was the number 1 on the Universe Prodigy list, an exceptional demon from the Spirit Tribe, one of the top 10 races, Ling Heng. This person was very talented and controlled the 2 origin ancient words fire and wind. This way there were more than a dozen people with 11-star battle prowess. On average, there were more than 3 people with 11-star battle prowess on each battle platform. One could imagine that the competition would become more and more intense. However, on Lu Ming's battle platform, there were only 3 people with 11-star battle prowess: Lu Ming, Ling Yue, and Yi Chu Qianyue. After defeating Yi Chu Qianyue, Lu Ming had no opponents. Every opponent who saw him would admit defeat immediately. Lu Ming won all the way and quickly reached 16 consecutive victories. There were still 2 more battles before Lu Ming's battles on this battle platform were all over. In the 17th battle, Lu Ming finally faced Ling Yue. On the battle platform, the 2 of them stood facing each other. Ling Yue looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. It was as if she was sad and resentful, as if she was in love and hate. Lu Ming sighed in his heart and then said, "I." Lu Ming wanted to admit defeat directly. Although it was impossible for Ling Yue to be his match in a real battle, in his heart he still felt that he owed Ling Yue. In this battle he would not fight with the other party. He wanted to give the victory to the other party. "I admit defeat." However, before Lu Ming could say anything, Ling Yue's voice had already sounded first. As her voice fell, Ling Yue had already turned around and left, returning to the lotus. Lu Ming was in a daze and then returned to the lotus. "This guy is really showing mercy everywhere." Not far away, Xian Yanqing muttered. The expressions of Lu Ming and Ling Yue naturally fell into Xian Yanqing's eyes. With her intelligence, how could she not see the problem? However, after experiencing so many things, Xian Yanqing was no longer the young girl from before. She had already seen through many problems. She knew that it was impossible for her to tie Lu Ming to her side by herself. A person like Lu Ming was destined to have more than one woman. It was exactly the same as her father in her previous life. Just like that, Lu Ming obtained 17 consecutive victories. When the 18th round began, there was no suspense. Lu Ming's opponent directly admitted defeat. This way, Lu Ming maintained his 18 consecutive victories on this battle platform, just like Ling Yue. However, Ling Yue still had one last battle to fight, and that was Yi Chu Qianyue. The 2 of them faced each other in the last match. Kill? As soon as he stepped onto the stage, Yi Chu Qianyue attacked with all his might. The power of the heavenly punishment in his right hand and the power of the heavenly extermination in his left hand transformed into a terrifying attack that attacked Ling Yue from the left and right. Ling Yue let out a light shout, and a towering ancient tree appeared behind her. Its roots were rooted in the void, and a huge amount of essence chi flowed into Ling Yue's body. A battle bow appeared in Ling Yue's hand. An arrow condensed and pierced through the air, shooting towards Yi Chu Qianyue. Chapter 44:16. Ling Yue and Yi Chu Qianyue pushed their combat strength to the peak at the same time, unleashing their strongest attacks. A dazzling arrow pierced through the air, as if it could pierce through everything, and collided with Yi Chu Qianyue in the air. With a boom, it was as if a star had exploded, erupting with dazzling multicolored light. With a violent explosion, the arrow exploded. However, Yi Chu Qianyue's attack was also blocked. His body shook violently as he was pushed back by the powerful force. In a head-on confrontation, Ling Yue actually had the upper hand. The single point of attack of the Tao of archery was simply too strong. After shooting an arrow, Ling Yue once again drew her bow. A huge arrow condensed and aimed at Yi Chu Qianyue. Yi Chu Qianyue's eyes flickered with a cold luster. His body trembled and split into several figures, rushing towards Ling Yuwei. His speed was extremely fast, constantly flickering. When Ling Yuwei's arrow rushed past, he successfully dodged it and then quickly rushed towards Ling Yuwei. The best way to deal with people who cultivated the Tao of archery was to close the distance between the two sides. Once the distance was closed, the power of the Tao of archery would not be able to be fully displayed. In a head-on confrontation, the Tao of archery was too strong and extremely unwise. Yichu Qinyue was clearly aware of this point. Ling Yuwei's expression changed slightly as she retreated. At the same time, she continued to pull on her bowstring. With a buzz, an arrow flew out. However, after the arrow flew out, it didn't continue forward. Instead, it kept changing, turning into many other arrows. In an instant, dozens of arrows appeared in the air. These arrows all flew towards Yichu Qinyue's figures. Moreover, these arrows were controlled by Ling Yuwei. They could freely turn in the air and change as they pleased. Swoosh, 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 dozens of arrows, like dozens of flying swords, chased after Yichu Qinyue. Each of the figures that Yichu Qinyue had split into seemed to be his real body. Furthermore, each of them possessed a powerful attack power. He used the power of the heavenly punishment to condense a battle sword. With a slash of his sword, dozens of pure white lightning bolts burst out and attacked the arrows. Once an arrow approached, it would be blocked by the power of the heavenly punishment. The distance between Yichu Qinyue and Ling Yuwei was constantly shrinking. He didn't ask for merit, but he didn't ask for any mistakes. He wholeheartedly wanted to close the distance between him and Ling Yuwei, and for a moment, Ling Yuwei couldn't do anything to him. Finally, the distance between the two sides was only less than 1,000 meters. A distance of 1,000 meters was nothing to them. However, this distance was too short for Ling Yuwei. The arrows he shot were unable to display their full power, which was very disadvantageous for Ling Yuwei. Kill, kill. Yichu Qinyue shouted loudly as he circulated the two supreme heavenly powers to the extreme. The two supreme heavenly powers intertwined together and turned into beams of light that shot towards Ling Yuwei. At such a close distance, Yichu Qinyue's attack speed had surpassed Ling Yuwei's. Ling Yuwei could only continuously dodge and occasionally counterattack with her bow. However, it did not affect Yi Qinyue too much. She was completely at a disadvantage. He's going to lose. Lu Ming thought to himself. In a one-on-one confrontation, Ling Yuwei was at a disadvantage. It wasn't that Ling Yuwei wasn't strong, it was just that Ling Yuwei was restrained. In terms of attack power alone, Ling Yuwei even surpassed Yichu Qinyue by a bit. However, the weakness of the path of archery was too obvious. The difference in strength was great. Once the arrow was shot, the opponent wouldn't be able to dodge in time. However, in a situation where one's strength was about the same in a one-on-one battle, the path of archery was at a disadvantage. It was easy to be restrained, and once the distance was pulled closer, the situation would be very disadvantageous. Those who cultivated in the Tao of archery were best at cooperating with others. For example, Ling Yuwei and Lu Ming cooperated. Lu Ming stepped forward to attack and block the others, while Ling Yuwei continued to draw her bow from behind. The power of the arrow would be unleashed to the extreme, and the threat would also be greatly increased. Many paths of cultivation might not be strong in a one-on-one battle, but when combined with others, their power would be extremely terrifying. The Tao of archery was like this. Danden's Tao of array formations and Bubble's Tao of spacetime were even more so. For example, Danden's attack power in a one-on-one battle would not be particularly strong. This was because setting up a formation required time. The longer the time, the stronger the formation would be. Therefore, in a one-on-one battle, Danden was at a disadvantage. If he cooperated with others and was given sufficient time to set up the formation, the power he could unleash would be extremely terrifying. Of course, Danden's life-saving ability was top-notch. As for the power of time and space, it was known as the King of Support. It wasn't that these paths of cultivation weren't strong, but that they needed to be coordinated with others in order to unleash their strongest power. Ling Yuwei was at a disadvantage on this point. The two sides exchanged a few more moves. Ling Yuwei was careless and was struck by a pure white bolt of lightning. A charred black hole appeared in her abdomen, and the powerful force caused her to explosively retreat. Only after retreating 10,000 meters did she stabilize her body. However, after Ling Yuwei stabilized her body, she did not stop. She took a step forward and rushed out of the stage at an astonishing speed. Ling Yuwei was planning to admit defeat. She was already clear that under the circumstances of being restrained, she would definitely not be able to win against her opponent. She might as well admit defeat. Open your mouth and admit defeat. Yichu Qianyue shouted and continued to rush towards Ling Yue. Although rushing out of the stage and admitting defeat were both admitting defeat, the meaning was different. He wanted Ling Yue to personally admit defeat. However, Ling Yue clearly did not intend to open her mouth. As she retreated, she continued to draw her bow and arrows flew towards Yichu Qianyue. This way he could stop Yichu Qianyue's speed. After blocking for a while, Ling Yue had already rushed out of the stage and returned to the lotus flower. This way Yichu Qianyue could not continue to attack. Humph! Yichu Qianyue coldly snorted and also retreated to the lotus flower. In this battle Yichu Qianyue won. After a few more matches, all the matches on this stage came to an end. The results of this battle were also out. Lu Ming had won 18 consecutive matches and was ranked first. Yichu Qianyue had won 17 matches and lost 1 match, ranking second. Ling Yue had won 16 matches and lost 2 matches, ranking third. However, there were still a few battle stages where the battles were still not over. They needed to wait. After all, each battle would take a different amount of time. Some battle stages would take a longer time while others would take a shorter time. This was normal. They waited for another 2 days. At this time all the battles were finally over. Alright, now that the 7 battle stages have all ended, the top 7 of each battle stage can enter the top 49 and obtain the 4th grade position, allowing them to better connect to the cosmic sea. The old voice sounded again. The top 7 of each battle stage naturally revealed looks of joy, while those who did not enter the top 7 shook their heads and sighed. Chapter 44:17. Now, I'll announce the rules for entering the 3rd tier. There are a total of 14 slots for the first 3 tiers, 4 slots for the first 2 tiers, and 1 slot for the first tier. In the later rounds we'll decide the rankings from the 1st to the 14th. The old voice sounded again. Everyone was shocked. It seemed that the top 14 would be decided in the later rounds. The following battle would be the final battle, the most important one. However, not all 49 of you are qualified to participate in the later rounds because it's not necessary. I've decided that the top 3 of each battle platform will be qualified to participate in the final round. The old voice continued to announce. What? Many people's expressions changed. Only the top 3 rankers of each battle platform would be able to participate in the final battle. The others would have to stop there and be eliminated? Some people were unwilling to accept this. Especially those who possessed 11-star combat strength. Among them there was a son of heaven. According to the rules announced by the old voice, only the top 3 of each battle platform would be qualified to participate in the later rounds. The 7 battle platforms added up to 21 people. However, there were more than 21 people with 11-star combat strength and above. Now, those who were suspected to possess 12-star combat strength were Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Dark Knight Rose, Wan Shen, Yichu Tianji, Yiling Hongye, and Yi Qiuxian. There were a total of 7 people. There were a total of 17 people with 11-star combat strength. Adding them up, there were 24 people. In this way, 3 people with 11-star combat strength were excluded. The 3 of them were unwilling to accept this and thought that they still had a chance to compete. Before these people could say anything, the old voice rang out again. I know that some of you will feel indignant and think that you are just unlucky. There are too many experts on your battle platforms. Hence, I will give you all a chance. The 4th to 7th place of each battle platform will have a chance to challenge one of the 21 people. You can choose any one of the 21 people. As long as you can defeat your opponent, you'll be able to replace your opponent. Remember, everyone only has one chance and you can't challenge the same person all the time. Now let's begin. The old voice announced. When the old voice sounded out, the 7 battle stages in the air started to gather together and eventually formed a single battle stage. And the top 3 of each battle platform surrounded the battle platforms. As for the 4th to 7th rankers of each battle platform, they retreated, distancing themselves from the battle prowess of their opponents. However, they weren't teleported out of the light barrier. This meant that they still had a chance to challenge their opponents. There were 28 people who had one chance to challenge. These 28 people immediately swept their gazes over Lu Ming and the others. Of course, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yichu Tianji, and Yiling Hongye, the 7 suspected to have 12-star battle prowess, were directly ignored. A 12-star battle prowess wasn't something that they could deal with. Thus, there was no need to even consider it. Their targets were the other 11 stars, especially Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others. If they fought alone, it would be easy for them to be restrained. I'll go first. Immediately, a voice rang out. It came from an existence on the Universe Prodigy list. This person was ranked second on the Universe Prodigy list. His name was Ning Tai, and he was also very powerful with a battle prowess of 10 stars. His reaction was very fast. While others were still observing, he directly issued a challenge. Aloud. The old voice rang out, and the lotus beneath Ning Tai's feet automatically flew out. Damn it, he beat me to it. Damn it, I hope he doesn't choose those people. The others roared in their hearts, especially the 3 prodigies who possessed a battle prowess of 11 stars. They were roaring in their hearts, and their hearts were filled with annoyance. They secretly blamed themselves for being one step slower. They had already targeted Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others, secretly praying that they wouldn't be chosen by Ning Tai. Because if they were chosen by Ning Tai, they wouldn't have a chance and could only challenge others later. I choose her. Ning Tai pointed at Ling Yue. As expected, many people nodded in their hearts. Ning Tai had indeed chosen one of these people. Damn it. The 3 11 stars prodigies roared in their hearts. They were very unwilling. An easier person to deal with had been chosen. The lotus beneath Ling Yue's feet flew forward and towards the battle platform. The 2 of them flew onto the battle platform and faced each other. Boom. A powerful aura erupted from Ning Tai's body. His glabella glowed and a golden light burst out. His entire body was enveloped by the golden light, and his body seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. This is the origin ancient character. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Looking at it from a close distance, and with the other party using all his strength, Lu Ming could easily see that the other party also controlled the origin ancient character. There was an ancient character between Ning Tai's eyebrows that was faintly discernible. If one looked carefully, they could see that it should be the word gold. With a swoosh, Ning Tai rushed towards Ling Yue. He was also using Yi Chu Qinyue's tactic to close the distance between the 2 of them. He only had 10 stars of battle prowess and Ling Yue had 11 stars. If he didn't close the distance between the 2 of them, he probably wouldn't even be able to block an arrow from Ling Yue. Only by closing the distance and attacking the opponent's weakness would he have a chance of winning. However, this time Ling Yue didn't retreat. Behind her, a towering tree took root in the air, and a huge amount of essence qi continuously flowed into Ling Yue's body, continuing to provide her with strength. She didn't attack either, allowing Ning Tai to approach. Soon, the distance between the 2 sides was less than 1,000 meters. A good chance. Ning Tai's eyes lit up. He let out a light shout and a golden light burst forth. Densely packed metal weapons appeared around his body. These were not divine armaments brought from the outside world, but evolved from the gold word. Dozens of weapons charged towards Ling Yue. At this moment, a dense number of arrows suddenly burst out from Ling Yue's body. These arrows were actually shot out from the pores all over her body. It was unknown how many tiny arrows had gathered together to form a shield. Clang, clang, clang. Ning Tai's attack landed on the shield formed by the arrows, causing a violent vibration. However, it was blocked in the end. 10 stars of battle prowess. Do you think it's useful just by closing the distance? How naive. Ling Yue's slightly cold voice rang out and then her body arched. His body bent backwards, his hands and feet connected. His entire body was like a bow. With a buzzing sound, Ling Yue's body trembled like a bowstring, and then her entire body shot out. The moment she shot out, she turned into an arrow and shot towards Ning Tai. Ning Tai's expression changed drastically. From between his brows, the ancient character, gold, flew out. Metal weapons condensed one after another, slashing towards the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into. Chapter 44:18. Boom. With a violent explosion, the weapons that Ning Tai had slashed out continuously shattered. In the blink of an eye, all of the weapons shattered into pieces. Although the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into was slightly dimmer, it still retained some of its power and continued to shoot towards Ning Tai. With a bang, a large hole appeared in Ning Tai's chest. He retreated backwards until he reached the edge of the stage. His face was pale as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. 11 stars of battle strength might be useful to me if I close the distance. 10 stars of battle strength and you want to use the same method? How laughable. Ling Yue said as if she wanted to vent all her resentment towards Lu Ming on others. Her long skirt fluttered as a battle bow condensed. An arrow appeared and aimed at Ning Tai. At such a distance, Ling Yue's arrow was able to unleash its strongest power. Ning Tai felt his muscles tense up as a strong sense of danger enveloped his entire body. He was already injured from that move just now. Now that he had pulled away, he definitely wouldn't be able to block Ling Yue's strongest attack. It was very likely that he would be instantly killed by an arrow. Although they could revive after being killed here, no one wanted to personally experience the feeling of being killed. I admit defeat. Ning Tai shouted loudly, directly admitting defeat. Seeing that Ning Tai had admitted defeat, Ling Yue also dispersed her bow and arrow and retracted her aura. Lu Ming nodded silently. This scene was within his expectations. After all, Ning Tai and Ling Yue were 1 star apart. The same method might be useful against Yichu Qianyue, but it might not be useful against Ning Tai. Although Ling Yue's close compatibility wasn't strong, she would be at a disadvantage against an opponent of the same level and star rank. However, that didn't mean that she would be helpless against an opponent whose star rank was weaker than hers. Although her close compatibility couldn't deal with Yichu Qianyue, it was enough to deal with Ning Tai. Therefore Ning Tai failed. The challenge has failed. Get out. An old voice sounded, and then a force acted on Ning Tai's body. In the next moment, Ning Tai's body disappeared from his original spot and appeared outside the light barrier. He had been eliminated. From a participant, he had become a bystander. As for Ling Yue, she had stabilized the first 21 spots. The others were unable to continue challenging him. I'll challenge you. I challenge you. At this moment, 5 or 6 voices sounded at the same time. This time, 5 or 6 people issued challenges at the same time, fearing that the person they liked would be chosen by others. You're the first to speak. Go ahead and challenge him. The old man's voice rang out, and a lotus flower flew out. This was a son of heaven, possessing 11 stars of battle prowess. This person was overjoyed. As for the others, they were inwardly furious. They were just a bit slower than the other party, but in the end, the other party was 1 step ahead of them. I want to challenge him, that world turtle. The emperor pointed at Dandan. As expected, he chose Dandan. In a one-on-one fight, Dandan was indeed not strong. Motherfucker, do you really think I'm easy to bully? Dandan was extremely displeased and gritted his teeth. However, Dandan could not refuse a challenge. The two of them stepped onto the battle platform and the battle began. Dandan retreated from the beginning and then frantically set up formations. Runes flew out from every pore of his, and one formation after another appeared. In an instant, the entire battle platform was filled with formations. However, these formations were only set up in a short period of time. Although there were many of them, their power was ultimately limited. This son of heaven of the heavenly human clan also controlled 2 types of supreme heavenly powers. When combined, the power was extremely shocking. Every time he blasted out a move, a large area of array formations would be destroyed. Although Dandan kept setting up formations, the speed of setting up formations was still not as fast as the speed of the other party breaking them. The two of them fought for more than half an hour. In the end, Dandan was at a disadvantage. He was no match for the other party and was defeated. Motherfucker, if you give me a little more time, I will definitely beat you into a bastard. Bah, beat you into a dead dog. Dandan cursed and was finally teleported out. Then the challenge continued. Next, another expert with a combat strength of 11 stars challenged Bubble. However, in the end, this person was defeated by Bubble. Then, the third person with a combat strength of 11 stars also issued a challenge. He challenged a monster from Heaven Destroyer. However, it still ended in failure. Since then, the 3 people with a combat strength of 11 stars had all challenged each other. There were still some people with a combat strength of 10 stars left. Those people looked at each other with a solemn expression. Those who were easy to deal with had all been defeated. None of the remaining people were easy to deal with. In the end, a few people with a combat strength of 10 stars were unwilling to give up and issued challenges one after another. However, in the end, they were all defeated in a crushing manner. Some of them were even killed on the spot. In this way, the remaining people shook their heads and gave up on the challenge. It was meaningless. The gap was too big. Even if they challenged, they would not succeed. Just like that, the 21 people who were qualified to participate in the next competition were determined. The next rules are very simple. Just like before, each person will take turns to fight with the other 20 people. In the end, the strongest 14 people will be ranked according to the results of the battle. The first place will obtain the first tier position. The second place to the 4th place will obtain the second tier position. The 5th place to the 14th place will obtain the 3rd tier position. Let's start the competition. As his voice fell, 2 lotuses flew toward the fighting ring. It's Yichu Tianji. The other person is from Heaven Destroyer. The spectators outside were discussing animatedly. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming whispered. That's right. The first round was between Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji. Autumn Moon, you don't have to fight this round. Just admit defeat. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had a combat strength of 11 stars while Yichu Tianji had a combat strength of 12 stars. He had mastered 3 types of ultimate heavenly power. Previously, Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji had fought. The gap between them was indeed huge. Autumn Moon was definitely not a match for Yichu Tianji. If he insisted on fighting, he would definitely be injured or even killed. There was no need for that. It was better to conserve his strength and fight with those who also had a combat strength of 11 stars. With Autumn Moon's strength, he might be able to enter the top 14 and obtain the 3rd-tier position. Autumn Moon nodded. I admit defeat. As soon as Autumn Moon stepped onto the fighting ring, he admitted defeat. Yichu Tianji snorted unhappily. He had wanted to seize the opportunity to suppress Autumn Moon and attack Lu Ming. Obviously, Autumn Moon would not give him the chance. In the first round, Autumn Moon lost. The second round was about to begin. In the second round, Di Jinni was against Yichu Tianyi. The two of them fought fiercely. However, Di Jinni lived up to his name as an exceptional character from a small kiliacosm. He was also the main character of a small kiliacosm. He was extremely powerful. After the two of them fought for over 100 moves, Di Jinni defeated Yichu Tianyi. Yichu Tianyu's combat strength was not the best among the 9 heavenly daughters. He was ranked at the bottom. Chapter 44:19. In the first match of the first round, Autumn Moon admitted defeat and Yichu Tianji won. In the second match, Di Jinni defeated Yichu Tianyi. Then it was the third match. In this match, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list faced a genius from the Heaven Destroyer. After more than 200 moves, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, Ling Heng, won. In the fourth match, it was Xian Yanqing's turn. His opponent was a daughter of heaven who had a battle power of 11 stars. This daughter of heaven was unwilling to admit defeat when facing Xian Yanqing. Instead, she launched a fierce attack to find an opportunity to win. However, in the end, she was suppressed by Xian Yanqing and defeated in a few moves. Then, those who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars appeared one after another. Wan Shun, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yi Ling Hongye. They won without much effort because everyone who met them admitted defeat one after another. Bubble's opponent was Dark Knight Rose. Bubble also admitted defeat. Of the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars, Lu Ming was the last to appear. His opponent also stunned Lu Ming. Was Ling Yue. He met Ling Yue again in the first match. Lu Ming smiled bitterly in his heart. I admit defeat. Ling Yue was very straightforward. She admitted defeat and returned to the battle stage. Soon the first round ended. In this round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars didn't meet each other and won easily. There were also a few who had a battle power of 11 stars who won. Di Jinni, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, and a son of heaven from the celestial race. Of course, there were a total of 21 people. In one round there were 20 people fighting in 10 matches. There would be an extra person. Of course, this person wouldn't be free. He would also meet an opponent, and his opponent would be one of the 20 people in front of him. However, it didn't matter. Everyone would eventually fight with the other 20 people. It was the same sooner or later. They just had to take turns. After the first round, it was the second round. In the second round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars still didn't meet each other. On the other hand, Lu Ming's opponent was Bubbles. Bubbles, of course, admitted defeat. For 2 consecutive matches, Lu Ming had encountered his own people. Without moving a single finger, he had obtained 2 consecutive victories. And in the second round, other than the 7 existences that were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess that had won, there were 4 other people that had won. The other son of heaven had obtained victory. On the other hand, Emperor Jianyi and the number 1 on the Universe Genius list had also won. The last one was the Mid-Autumn Moon. In this match, Autumn Moon had defeated a son of heaven. After 2 rounds of fighting, other than the 7 who were suspected to possess 12-star battle prowess, a few particularly powerful people in the 11-star battle prowess area had already emerged. They were Emperor Jianyi, number 1 on the Universe Genius list. There were also 2 sons of heaven, Autumn Moon and Autumn. These 5 people were believed to be the ones who could enter the top 14. Of course, he couldn't be completely sure. It was just an estimate. This was because some people were unlucky and encountered people with 12-star battle prowess in 2 consecutive rounds. However, this did not mean that they were weak. The final ranking would only be known after all the battles. The second round ended, and the third round began. The 7 people with 12-star battle prowess still did not encounter each other. And Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually the Mid-Autumn Moon. The Mid-Autumn Moon naturally admitted defeat. This made Lu Ming rather speechless. Why can't I fight against my own people? I have a body full of power, but I can't unleash it. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His face was filled with grief as he lamented the unfairness of fate. If other people were to know his thoughts, they would probably vomit blood from anger. It was impossible for others to win easily. Who knew how many people were envious of Lu Ming? This Lu Ming, why is he so lucky to encounter so many beauties, and they all seem to be with him? That's right, what kind of luck is this? It's really infuriating. Many of the onlookers were unhappy. How many beauties were there among the 21 people participating in the competition? More than half of them had a close relationship with Lu Ming. How could people not be envious? The competition was carried out one by one. From the third round onwards, someone who was suspected to have a 12-star battle prowess finally met. That was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. I admit defeat. Xian Yanqing smiled slightly and returned to the lotus. The onlookers were speechless. Everyone was speechless. Without looking, they knew that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming had a close relationship. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing also had a 12-star battle prowess. Why would he admit defeat without a fight? Admitting defeat was equivalent to giving up the qualification for first place. Who would give up easily when both of them had a 12-star battle prowess? However, Xian Yanqing gave up. Everyone was prepared to watch an exciting peak battle. Unfortunately, it was over before it even started. I'm jealous. I hate it. Many people wailed. No matter what kind of emotions they had, the competition would not stop. After a while, the 5th round ended and the 6th round began. Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually someone he knew. Wan Shen. Although his opponent for this round was not a woman, it was actually Wan Shen. No matter what, they are all on the same side. It must be intentional. Even Lu Ming muttered to himself. This was too much of a coincidence. If it was not intentional, how could it be so coincidental? Lu Ming himself could not believe it. Lu Ming and Wan Shen stood opposite each other on the fighting ring. They will probably fight in this round. Although Wan Shen and Lu Ming are considered members of the Heaven Exterminating Army, neither of them will give up easily in the fight for the top spot. There will be an intense battle between the heavenly sons and daughters. They will definitely take action. Wan Shen is suspected to be a pure primordial god, while Lu Ming has a taboo body. Once they clash, it will be very exciting. Who do you think will win? Everyone was discussing animatedly, looking forward to an exciting battle. Lu Ming, are you confident of getting first place? In the arena, Wan Shen asked Lu Ming through voice transmission. I'm 80% confident. Lu Ming replied through voice transmission. The reason why he did not say he was 100% confident was because he was not sure if anyone was hiding their strength. It was easy to tell one's cultivation, but it was difficult to tell one's strength unless it was revealed. Among them, was there anyone who was hiding their strength? Dark Knight Rose, Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, Yi Qiuxian, especially Yi Qiuxian, Lu Ming could not see through him. He felt that he was hiding his strength very deeply and even made him feel a little pressured. 80% confidence? That's enough. I don't even have 20% confidence. I'll let you win this round. I'll leave first place to you. Wan Shen replied through voice transmission. Then he said loudly, I admit defeat. As his voice rang out, Wan Shen had already stepped back onto the fighting ring. The onlookers. Chapter 44:20. The onlookers were completely speechless. However, their envy, jealousy, and hatred towards Lu Ming had reached its peak. Another person admitted defeat. There were a total of 7 people who were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess, and 2 of them had already admitted defeat to Lu Ming. How much strength could this save for Lu Ming? Even Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, and the others revealed looks of envy. How much effort would it take to defeat an existence with 12-star battle prowess? How much strength would it consume? It would definitely be a tragic battle. However, Lu Ming won 2 matches in a row without drawing blood. Just like that, Lu Ming easily won 6 consecutive matches. As for the other 12-star battle prowess, he had yet to meet them. However, after 6 rounds of confrontation, some of the more outstanding ones in the 11-star battle prowess region slowly revealed themselves. They were believed to be the most likely to enter the top 14. Di Jinni, Ling Heng, the number 1 on the Universe Prodigy list, Autumn Moon, the 3 Sons of Heaven, and Bubbles. These 7 people were the most optimistic and believed to be the most likely to enter the top 14. As for the others, their battle records were slightly worse. For example, Ling Yue was easily fought over and ranked at the bottom. Of course, Ling Yue was not without victories, and there were also people who would be restrained by her. For example, those who were slow and had strong defense. It was very difficult for such people to close the distance between them and Ling Yue, and they became a moving target. However, Ling Yue's attack power was extremely strong. Under Ling Yue's continuous attacks, even a strong defense could be broken through. However, there were not many people like her. As for Bubbles, although she was the king of support, her ability to fight alone was also very strong. Time and space could also unleash extremely strong attack power. The key was that it was very difficult for others to attack Bubbles. Even if Bubbles used this move, she could exhaust her opponent to the point of exhaustion. Bubbles won a few matches, and they were all defeated after exhausting her opponent to the point of exhaustion. As for Di Jinni, Ling Heng and Autumn Moon, the 3 sons of heaven, they all had terrifying attack power and almost had no shortcomings. In a battle of the same level, their battle prowess was extremely strong. Soon the competition entered the 7th round. This time, there were finally other powerhouses who were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess. Yiqiushin Yichu Tianji. Celestial Clan's 2 exceptional monsters actually faced off against each other. Many people looked expectant. This time there should be a pinnacle showdown. Who would win and who would lose? Yiqiushin and Yichu Tianji stood opposite each other on the battle platform. Their eyes met and sparks of electricity shot out. Yiqiushin, you actually possess a 12-star battle prowess. This has truly exceeded my expectations. This is also the fortune of my heavenly human tribe. My heavenly human tribe will become more and more powerful. Yichu Tianji's voice reverberated in all directions. However, his tone suddenly changed as he said, "However, even if we are of the same level, there is still a difference in strength. You are no match for me, so it's better for you to admit defeat so that you don't consume too much energy." "I don't agree with you at all," Yiqiushin said indifferently. "You don't agree? What do you disagree with?" Yichu Tianji said. "I don't think you're my match," Yiqiushin said very seriously with a faint smile on his face. "Yiqiushin, you're very confident," Yichu Tianji said coldly. His gaze was a little cold as he stared at Yiqiushin like a sharp sword. However, Yiqiushin was not afraid at all as he looked back at Yichu Tianji. This made Yichu Tianji very unhappy. He had some impression of Yiqiushin. In his impression, Yiqiushin was just an ordinary sky pride of the heavenly human tribe. He was the strongest son of heaven. An ordinary sky pride of the heavenly human tribe was no different from trash in his eyes. However, the trash in his eyes was now standing in front of him confidently as his opponent and even said that he was no match for him. This was outrageous. Yichu Tianji's anger continued to spread. "I hope you have the right to be confident," Yichu Tianji said coldly as a powerful aura erupted from his body. 3 types of energy erupted from his body. Heavenly punishment, and heavenly annihilation. The 3 types of powerful heavenly energy whizzed around him and condensed into 3 different beasts. As soon as he attacked, Yichu Tianji pushed his combat strength to the peak. However, at the same time, a powerful aura erupted from Yiqiushin's body as well as 3 types of energy erupted. They were also 3 types of heavenly energy. Heavenly punishment, and heavenly wrath. Unlike Yichu Tianji, there was one type of heavenly energy that was different. At the same time, the form of the condensation was also different. Yiqiushin's 3 types of heavenly energy condensed into 3 battle swords. The battle swords vibrated and sword chi surged into the sky. "Kill! Fight!" The 2 of them shouted at the same time as their bodies turned into phantoms and charged at each other. The heavenly energy also blasted at each other. A great battle between the 2 of them had erupted. Boom! 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 Shocking explosions rang out as the terrifying power caused the battle platform to shake continuously. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Although the 2 of them had mastered 3 types of heavenly energy, the way they used them was very different. The way they attacked was also very different. Yichu Tianji used the heavenly energy to transform into a ferocious beast that roared like thunder. On the other hand, Yiqiushin used the heavenly energy to form a sword that could move mountains and rivers. They had different forms, but their power was equally shocking. Soon, the 2 of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. At this time, Yiqiushin actually started to gain the upper hand. That was because Yiqiushin's attack power was stronger. The 3 battle swords worked together seamlessly as if they could split the entire universe apart. Yichu Qinji felt immense pressure and started to retreat. Damn it! Yichu Qinji roared in his heart as his eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. He really wanted to kill Yi Qiuxian. Because once he was defeated by Yi Qiuxian, he was destined to lose the right to compete for first place. Without a doubt, if he wanted to obtain first place, he had to win all of his battles. Once he lost, it would mean that his battle power was inferior to someone else's. If someone was stronger than him, it would be impossible for him to obtain first place. And his goal was to obtain first place. But now he was being suppressed by Yi Qiuxian. He really wanted to use his status as the Son of Heaven to suppress Yi Qiuxian and make him admit defeat. But he knew that it was useless. Although Yi Qiuxian was not the Son of Heaven yet, he could predict that after this matter was over, Yi Qiuxian would definitely be promoted to the Son of Heaven. Using his status as the Son of Heaven to suppress Yi Qiuxian was clearly not going to work. Yichu Qinji could only push his strength to the limit, hoping to find Yi Qiuxian's weakness and win in one fell swoop. But he was thinking too much. The more Yi Qiuxian fought, the braver and stronger he became. He suppressed Yichu Qinji until he was forced to retreat. How could he find Yi Qiuxian's weakness? Even if he found Yi Qiuxian's weakness, he did not have the strength to launch a counterattack. Finally, after dozens of blows, Yichu Qinji was sent flying out of the fighting stage. Chapter 44-21. Yichu Qinji was sent flying out of the arena, defeated by Yi Qiuxian. Damn it! Yichu Qinji roared, his heart was filled with anger and unwillingness. The spectators were also in an uproar. Yi Qiuxian had defeated Yichu Qinji, making the originally simple and confusing battle situation clearer. Originally, it was hard for outsiders to determine who was stronger among the 7 exceptional talents with 12-star fighting power. It was really hard to determine who was stronger without having fought with someone of the same star level. Anything could happen. Now there was finally some progress. Yi Qiuxian's fighting power was obviously stronger than Yichu Qinji's. Yichu Qinji and Yi Ling Hongye had always been on par. This meant that Yi Ling Hongye wasn't Yi Qiuxian's match either. Obviously, Yi Qiuxian's ability was stronger. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen and Dark Knight Rose, could they be Yi Qiuxian's match? Although they hadn't fought, everyone's heart started to lean towards Yi Qiuxian. They felt that Yi Qiuxian had a higher chance of winning. After Yi Qiuxian defeated Yichu Qinji, the competition continued. Now everyone had their own goal in mind. 7 beings with 12-star fighting power would enter the top 14 without any suspense. They were competing for the top 4. As for those with 11-star fighting power, they only had one goal, which was to enter the top 14 and step into the 3rd tier, which would allow them to better connect to Universe C. Hence, once they met someone with 12-star fighting power, they would almost always admit defeat. Only when they met someone of the same star-level fighting power would they fight with all their might. During this period there were many exciting battles. For example, Di Jinni vs Ling Heng. It was a peak battle between swords with 11-star fighting power. Both of them were the elites of the elites. Ling Heng was the spirit of fire in the spirit tribe. He controlled 2 origin ancient words, fire and wind. They complemented each other seamlessly and their power multiplied. However, Di Jinni wasn't weak either. Although Di Jinni only controlled 1 origin ancient word, the origin ancient word was the word, sword. However, Emperor Jinni's talent in sword principle was too high. After he had the word, sword, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. He did not need any other origin ancient characters. One was enough. He unleashed the might of his way of the sword to its limits. After exchanging a few hundred blows with Ling Heng, he actually managed to defeat him with a slight advantage. There was also a top-level battle between Autumn Moon and a Son of Heaven. This Son of Heaven was one of the 3 that was deemed to be most likely to enter the top 14. His battle prowess was a level higher than Chu Qinyue's. Autumn Moon went through a difficult battle. The 9 Orifices Sacred Heart was pushed to the extreme by Autumn Moon. In the end, he defeated his opponent with a slight advantage. The peak showdown between 11 stars of battle prowess also caused the spectators to cry out in satisfaction. After all, in the past, 11 stars of battle prowess represented the peak, and 12 stars of battle prowess were extremely rare. In most eras, it was hard to find a monstrous genius with a 12-star battle prowess. In this round, Lu Ming met an old acquaintance. Yin Jiuling was shrouded in an evil aura. His body was illusory which was very strange. His aura was many times more terrifying than before. His eyes were cold and his evil aura was soaring. However, Lu Ming was no longer the Lu Ming of the past. Although Yin Jiuling was much stronger than before, Lu Ming had made more progress than Yin Jiuling. No matter how strong Yin Jiuling was, he only had 11 stars of battle prowess. Yin Jiuling, do you want to admit defeat? Lu Ming said lightly. The last time he saw Yin Jiuling, he joined forces with the battle god Yuanwen to fight against him. But now Lu Ming did not put Yin Jiuling in his eyes. Yin Jiuling's eyes flashed coldly, as if he was thinking about whether there was a way to defeat Lu Ming. If you don't admit defeat, then I will make a move, Lu Ming said. He took a step forward and rushed towards Yin Jiuling like a lightning bolt, striking down with his palm. The forbidden power was activated, and a brilliant light burst out. The terrifying power suppressed Yin Jiuling. Yin Jiuling's pupils contracted sharply, and the evil aura around his body quickly became dense. With a bang, Yin Jiuling's body exploded, turning into several evil auras and retreated rapidly. However, Lu Ming's power was too strong. Under the suppression of the violent power, the sinister aura kept exploding, being annihilated and being distorted. Rumble. After a series of explosions, the evil aura weakened a lot, and Yin Jiuling's body was recondensed. However, Yin Jiuling's face was even paler, and his aura was much weaker than before. He was seriously injured in one move. Bang. Lu Ming stepped forward again and rushed towards Lu Ming and Yin Jiuling. Yin Jiuling's body exploded again. This time he turned into dozens of evil auras, which were scattered all over the fighting ring. The temperature of the entire fighting ring dropped sharply, and it was shrouded by the evil aura. He just wanted to use this move to consume Lu Ming's power, and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. However, would this move work on Lu Ming? The answer was obvious. Boom. Lu Ming slapped the middle of the fighting ring, and countless tiny spear lights rushed out in all directions from his palm. Every space in the fighting ring was shrouded in it. The core of these spear lights was the forbidden power. The forbidden power was so powerful that even if Yin Jiuling turned into evil aura, he could still be hit and seriously injured. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The dense spear lights pierced through the evil aura, and Yin Jiuling screamed in the evil aura. Dozens of evil auras exploded one after another, and in the end only 7 or 8 of them were still flying around. Boom. Lu Ming dashed over and pressed down with his big hands. More than 10 powerful forces suppressed the 7 to 8 wisps of sinister aura. I admit, in the evil aura Yin Jiuling's shrill and panicked scream came out. However, before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. Because all the evil aura on the field was annihilated by Lu Ming's powerful force. Yin Jiuling was directly killed by Lu Ming. The next moment Yin Jiuling was resurrected on the lotus, looking at Lu Ming with horror on his face. He originally wanted to test Lu Ming's strength, which was secretly instructed by Dark Knight Rose. He didn't expect that he would be killed by Lu Ming after just a few moves. In addition, those with 11-star battle strength were horrified and secretly decided not to fight with a 12-star battle strength. Yin Jiuling was not weak among those with 11-star battle strength. His evil aura was very difficult to deal with, but in the face of Lu Ming he had no power to fight back. Although he was restrained by the forbidden power, it was enough to prove that a 12-star battle strength was really terrifying. Chapter 44-22. From the 8th round onwards, the number of battles between the 12-star combatants increased. Not long after the 8th round began, a battle broke out. Dark Knight Rose vs. Yiling Hongye. The battle between the two peerless beauties broke out immediately. True to her name, Yiling Hongye also controlled 3 types of heavenly powers. She used the 3 types of heavenly powers to transform into red leaves that filled the sky. These red leaves were extremely sharp and comparable to divine weapons. At the same time, they were ever-changing and could form all kinds of attacks. Sometimes they would form all kinds of beasts and other times they would transform into various divine weapons. She could even create a red leaf domain. She could stand in the red leaf domain and control a part of the world. She possessed great power. As for Dark Knight Rose, she held a strange flower in her hand. The flower was dark gold in color. When the petals opened, dark gold light constantly flew out. The light was extremely terrifying and contained a deadly poison. At first, Yiling Hongye didn't care because at their level in combat strength, they were basically immune to all kinds of poisons. Especially since she controlled 3 types of heavenly powers. She could refine any kind of poison, so she was very confident. However, when the two exchanged hundreds of blows, Yiling Hongye's expression changed. She felt the poison enter her body and continuously devour the 3 types of heavenly powers in her body. This shocked Yiling Hongye greatly. Her face was filled with horror. Ew. What kind of power is this? How can it devour my heavenly powers? Yiling Hongye exclaimed. She was extremely shocked. The 4 types of heavenly powers of the heavenly human tribe were almost the strongest forces in the universe. Only a small number of forces could compete with the heavenly powers. The power of each type of heavenly powers was extremely terrifying when cultivated to the great accomplishment level. But now, there was a poison that could devour the 3 types of heavenly powers at the same time. That was terrifying. What kind of poison was this? How could there be such a poison in the universe? Why hadn't she heard of it? Could it be that flower, the sky devourer rose? Among the spectators, an elderly celestial venerate seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed in surprise. His aged face revealed a trace of shock. What? The sky devourer rose? The expressions of the other heavenly venerables and some divine master heavenly humans also changed drastically. In the surroundings, those who had never heard of the heaven-devouring rose were even more shocked. Even an Empyrean-level character let out a cry of surprise. Just what was the origin of this heaven-devouring rose that it was so shocking? Many people were curious. However, those important figures of the heavenly human clan didn't want to explain. They just stared at Dark Knight Rose. They wanted to see her clearly so that they could discuss among themselves. It can't really be the heaven-devouring rose, right? In the battle back then, didn't the heaven-devouring wild rose vanish into thin air, turned into scattered ashes? That's right. Back then, I personally saw the heaven-devouring wild rose being killed. Could it be the power of reincarnation? The power of reincarnation. You're saying that the heaven-devouring rose had already peered into reincarnation back then? That's impossible. If she had already reached such a level, how could she have been killed by us? I'm not sure. This is really strange. And that woman called Xian Yanqing. Her temperament is very similar to one of the daughters of the Tang family. That's even more impossible. The 2 daughters of the Tang family also died back then. I heard that Xian Yanqing seems to be Fei Huang's disciple. That Tang Qing was also Fei Huang's disciple. It's normal for their temperament to be similar. The higher-ups of the heavenly human clan discussed secretly. They transmitted their voices so that others couldn't hear them. The heaven-devouring wild rose. Could it be her? On a lotus near Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing's body trembled slightly. She whispered and was heard by Lu Ming. Little Qing, you know about the heaven-devouring wild rose? Lu Ming transmitted his voice and asked. Of course I know. I once subdued a plant life as a pet in my previous life. That was the heaven-devouring wild rose. Back then she died together with my previous life. Could it be that she also reincarnated? Xian Yanqing replied. What? It's actually your pet in your previous life? Lu Ming was shocked. I'm not sure, but it's very likely. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I saw her. In my memory, there's only one heaven-devouring wild rose in the entire Eldritch universe. There's no other. Xian Yanqing said. Perhaps your feeling is right. This is the one from back then. Since she's your pet, did she die together with you? Lu Ming asked. Yes, the heaven-devouring wild rose died together with me back then. Xian Yanqing said. That's right. You've reincarnated and she's also reincarnated by chance. She obviously recognized you, so she was so shocked when she saw you. Lu Ming said. He recalled the expression of Dark Knight Rose when she saw Xian Yanqing and became more certain. Lu Ming really didn't expect Dark Knight Rose to have such a dispute with Xian Yanqing. Things in the world were really strange. However, many of Lu Ming's doubts were answered. Dark Knight Rose always gave people a mysterious feeling. It turned out that the other party was a person who had reincarnated. In his previous life, his cultivation was extremely high and his background was great. That was why he was so unfathomable and had unparalleled means. He was able to win over a large number of geniuses and use them for his own purposes. The battle in the fighting ring continued. However, Yiling Hongye was on the verge of death. As the 3 supreme heavenly powers in her body were continuously devoured by Dark Knight Rose's poison, her strength was getting weaker and weaker. Dark Knight Rose's attacks were steady. Thus, Yiling Hongye was no match for Dark Knight Rose. In the end, Yiling Hongye coughed up blood and retreated out of the fighting ring. Dark Knight Rose won the battle. In this way, the 2 strongest heavenly daughters of the heavenly human tribe, Yichu Tianji and Yiling Hongye, were defeated. One was defeated by another dark horse of the heavenly human tribe, and the other was defeated by Dark Knight Rose. This made the faces of the heavenly human tribe turn ugly. Losing to Yi Qiuxian was one thing, but losing to Dark Knight Rose was something that made him feel displeased. He felt like he had lost face. After Dark Knight Rose defeated Yi Ling Hongye, the crowd's speculations about the rankings changed again. Previously, everyone thought that Yi Qiuxin was the most likely contender for first place. However, they changed their minds now. Dark Knight Rose defeated Yi Ling Hongye. Her poison could devour supreme heavenly powers, which was equivalent to restraining the power of the heavenly human tribe. Although Yi Qiuxin was stronger than Yi Chu Tianji, the power that he controlled was also the strongest heavenly energy. Wouldn't that mean that he would be restrained as well? Chapter 44-23. Since Dark Knight Rose could counter the strongest heavenly powers, wouldn't that mean that Dark Knight Rose's chances of getting first place were even higher? In everyone's hearts, Dark Knight Rose's chances of getting first place had greatly increased. But now no one dared to be completely sure. This was because Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Wan Shen had not truly fought against anyone with a 12-star battle prowess. They had not truly fought with their full strength. Although Xian Yanqing and Wan Shen had met Lu Ming, they had admitted defeat immediately. The outcome of the battle was very unpredictable and confusing. Who knew the specific battle prowess of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Wan Shen? However, everyone's curiosity was quickly verified. This was because in the 8th round after the battle between Dark Knight Rose and Yi Ling Hongye, another important battle was about to take place. Wan Shen against Yi Chu Tianji. It's finally my turn, heavenly human tribe, hee. Wan Shen licked his lips, his eyes revealing a sinister look as he stepped forward and arrived on the battle stage. Yi Chu Tianji also arrived on the battle stage. You are a pure-blooded primordial divine spirit? I'm really curious. How can a pure-blooded primordial divine spirit be born in this era? Yi Chu Tianji said. He had already walked out of the disappointment of being defeated by Yi Qiuxin and had readjusted his state, regaining his strong battle intent. You have no right to know. Wan Shen said indifferently. I have no right? Aha, primordial divine spirits are as proud as the rumors say. But you have forgotten one thing. In front of my heavenly human tribe, primordial divine spirits are defeated. Even at their peak, primordial divine spirits were slaughtered by my heavenly human tribe. Even if there were a few fish that escaped the net, they would not be able to cause any trouble. Today, I will once again prove that primordial divine spirits are nothing in front of my heavenly human tribe. Yi Chu Tianji sneered, deliberately provoking Wan Shen. At the same time, he exuded a powerful aura. 3 types of supreme heavenly powers condensed into 3 ferocious beasts that charged toward Wan Shen. Humph, watch me break your absolute heavenly power, Wan Shen coldly shouted. It was as if a volcano that had been hidden for countless years had erupted within his body. A terrifying aura surged out as his muscles bulged and his body grew taller. At the same time, a spear appeared in his right hand and a sword in his left. Above his head and around his body, dozens of rays of light appeared. All of them were origin source secret techniques, and there were more than 30 of them. An angry roar came from the sovereign's gate. A primitive god spirit rushed out and charged at one of Yi Chu Tianji's beasts. The other origin source secret techniques also blasted towards Yi Chu Tianji. His body charged towards Yi Chu Tianji. The spear and sword in his hands were also aimed at Yi Chu Tianji. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying rumbling sounds erupted as thousands of shockwaves swept out in all directions. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. Although Yi Chu Tianji's 3 ultimate heavenly powers were mighty and invincible, ordinary divine powers were nothing in front of them. However, what Wan Shen controlled was not ordinary divine powers. The divine powers in his body were extremely pure and vigorous. They were the most primitive divine powers and were not any weaker than absolute heavenly power. Coupled with dozens of origin source secret techniques, the power was astonishing. His attacks were like a storm, constantly smashing towards Yi Chu Tianji. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Around them, the other spectators were all dumbfounded and dazzled. They were especially shocked and impressed by Wan Shen's various origin source secret techniques. One had to know that apart from the heavenly human race, most of the people present cultivated various divine powers. They were of the same origin as Wan Shen, but compared to Wan Shen, they were trash in all aspects. Wan Shen was the ancestor of divine powers. Soon the two of them exchanged dozens of blows. At this time, Yi Chu Tianji's face was getting gloomier and gloomier because he felt an immense pressure. The myriad gods were like primordial beasts that never knew fatigue. Their strength was limitless, and their attacks were like a tidal wave that never stopped. Under such ferocious attacks, Yi Chu Tianji was already beginning to feel the strain. If this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. Ah! Yichu Tianji roared and pushed the three ultimate heavenly powers to the limit, wanting to counterattack and seize the initiative. Why are you shouting so loudly? You've already lost. It's useless no matter how loud you shout. Wan Xin sneered. His long hair danced in the wind as his burly body stepped forward. His skin turned bronze as he charged into Yichu Tianji's attacks like an invincible war god. Bam! A ferocious beast formed from the power of the utmost heavens struck the myriad gods. This ferocious beast was formed from the power of heavenly punishment. Immediately, the myriad god's body was covered in pure white lightning. However, Wan Xin's body only trembled a little before he continued to step forward as if nothing had happened. The spear in his right hand stabbed out like lightning. Yichu Tianji was stabbed, and a hole appeared in his body. The berserk power forced Yichu Tianji to retreat. Die. Wan Xin smiled savagely like a demon god. He stepped forward, causing the battle stage to shake. His burly body continued to charge at Yichu Tianji. Damn it! Yichu Tianji roared, his body flickering as he charged to the side. That move had severely injured him and weakened his battle strength. He no longer dared to face Wan Xin head-on. He wanted to use a roundabout method to stall Wan Xin and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. However, he had made the wrong decision. Wan Xin had dozens of origin source secret techniques. They were of all types and had almost no shortcomings. Ding-ling-ling. The sound of a bell resounded throughout the battle stage, spreading out and attacking the soul. A huge net, like an inescapable net, covered the sky, wanting to trap Yichu Tianji inside. At the same time, a pair of wings appeared on Wan Xin's back. They looked like a rock or a phoenix. With a flap, his burly body charged out like a phantom. Yichu Tianji could not dodge or escape from Wan Xin's pursuit. As the two sides closed the distance, Wan Xin's attacks were like a storm that pressed down on Yichu Tianji. Boom, boom, boom. Yichu Tianji barely managed to block a few moves before he coughed up blood and flew out of the battle stage. However, Wan Xin did not want his opponent to be defeated so easily. He flapped his wings and chased after Yichu Tianji. The spear in his right hand stabbed at Yichu Tianji's forehead while the battle sword in his left hand slashed at Yichu Tianji's waist. He wanted to kill Yichu Tianji. In the previous battles between 12-star battle strength, he had only defeated Yichu Tianji. If he could kill Yichu Tianji, it would be a huge blow to his opponent. Don't even think about it. Yichu Tianji roared. The three types of heavenly strength turned into a shield in front of him, while his body madly rushed out of the battle stage. Chapter 44-24. Wan Xin's attacks landed on Yichu Tianji's shield, causing it to explode. However, Yichu Tianji managed to gain a brief window of opportunity to rush out of the battle stage. Although the battle stage wasn't small, for an expert like Yichu Tianji, it would only take him a short moment to rush out of the battle stage if he went all out. If it wasn't for the huge difference in combat power, it would have been very difficult to kill him. However, Yichu Tianji's escape from the fighting ring meant that he had lost. What a pity, Wan Xin muttered. He was very unhappy that he couldn't kill Yichu Tianji on the fighting ring as he wished. Of course, Yichu Tianji was even more unhappy. He had lost again. He had already lost twice in a row in a battle between 12-star combatants. If this continued, he wouldn't even have a chance to get into the top 4, let alone compete for first place. He made him furious and impatient. Yichu Tianji lost again. He has lost twice in a row. It seems that Yichu Tianji's strength is at the bottom among the 7 12-star combatants. I heard that Yichu Tianji and Yichu Hongya's strength are about the same. I'm afraid the two of them won't be able to get into the top 4. Now, only Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming haven't fought with someone of the same level. I wonder how strong they are. If they are weaker than Yichu Tianji, they might still have a chance. If they are stronger than Yichu Tianji, then Yichu Tianji and Yichu Hongya won't have a chance. If that's the case, the 9 heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe will be completely wiped out. The surrounding people discussed animatedly. This made the faces of the heavenly human tribe very ugly, including the heavenly venerables and the Lord of Heaven. Indeed, the results of the 9 heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe could be said to be terrible. It was possible that none of them would be able to get into the top 4. This was a great humiliation for the heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe. This was because the heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe were synonymous with invincibility. It was easy for them to suppress the other prodigies of the universe. Now, the strongest heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe were losing consecutively. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Qiuxian had appeared out of nowhere and managed to save some face for the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly human tribe would have been utterly humiliated. The Lord of Heaven's celestial exalt's expressions were grim as their bodies constantly emitted powerful pressure, making it difficult for many people to breathe. Looks of terror appeared on their faces. The myriad god did not mind at all. He laughed and returned to the lotus. Congratulations, myriad god. Lu Ming smiled and congratulated him. It's a pity that we can't kill him on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, I'll leave this important task to you. Myriad god sighed, a look of pity on his face. Don't worry, unless he admits defeat, I'll definitely kill him, Lu Ming said. He deliberately raised his voice so that everyone could hear him. This was a blatant provocation. The purpose was to make it difficult for Yi Qiuqianji to admit defeat when he met Lu Ming later. Damn it, despicable bastard, I'll tear you apart. Yi Qiuqianji growled in his heart as he stared at Lu Ming with a murderous look. He wished he could tear Lu Ming apart. Haha, Lu Ming, you said it so loudly. If he hears it, I'm afraid he'll just admit defeat. The myriad god laughed and continued to provoke Yi Qiuqianji. At this moment, the next round of the competition continued. However, the following rounds were all battles between 11-star combat strength. Although they were equally exciting, the crowd was no longer interested in them. What they wanted to see was a battle between 12-star combat strength. They wanted to see who would be able to stand out from the crowd, seize the first place and truly suppress an era. In this round, Lu Ming's opponent was an 11-star combat strength existence, Di Jianyi. Di Jianyi's eyes opened and closed, revealing a strong battle intent. The battle sword in his hand kept trembling, but in the end he did not attack and chose to admit defeat. He knew about Yin Jioling's strength. Since Lu Ming could easily kill Yin Jioling, he knew that he was definitely not Lu Ming's match. Lu Ming, it's nothing to be ahead temporarily. Sooner or later I will catch up with you and even surpass you. After Di Jianyi admitted defeat, he secretly sent a message to Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly and was not bothered. After a while, the 8th round of the competition ended. After the 8th round of the competition ended, the 9th round of the competition began. In the 9th round it was still the same as before. Although the battle between 11-star combat strength was exciting, it did not attract the crowd's attention. Most of the people's attention was on the battle between 12-star combat strength. In the 5th round of the 9th round, there was finally another battle between 12-star combat strength. Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose. Two exceptional ladies stood opposite each other. Sky-devouring Rose, long time no see. Xian Yanqing spoke faintly and sent a message to Dark Knight Rose's ears. She stared at Dark Knight Rose without blinking. Dark Knight Rose's pupils shrank abruptly. She did not know why, but there was a tinge of fear in her eyes. However, it disappeared in a flash. I never thought that there would be a day when we would meet again. Dark Knight Rose replied with a voice transmission. Surrender and continue to rely on me. You should know my character. I will not mistreat you. Xian Yanqing said. Impossible. Dark Knight Rose shook her head and said coldly, back then I signed a contract with you to be your pet. Now that you and I have reincarnated, the effect of the contract has long disappeared. You can forget about controlling me. Back then I never thought of controlling you. I have always treated you like a sister. However, your ambition has never disappeared. Instead, it is getting bigger and bigger. Xian Yanqing said. I am the sky-devouring Rose. I am unique in the universe. My talent is peerless. No one can control me. On the contrary, I should be the one controlling the universe. What is the heavenly human race? What is the human race? Only I, who is unique, am the noblest creature in the universe. As Dark Knight Rose spoke, the madness in her eyes became more and more intense. They seemed to know each other. What are they talking about? The surrounding people were curious. Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose were communicating with each other through voice transmission. The surrounding people could not hear them, but they could see that the two of them were communicating. They were very curious. The few heavenly venerables of the heavenly human race looked at each other as if they had thought of something. Their eyes were filled with light. It seems that you want to fight with me. Are you sure you are my opponent? Xian Yanqing said coldly. The demonic qi around his body almost turned into stone. Many black lotus flowers appeared. Dark Knight Rose's eyes flickered a few times. She seemed to be hesitating and struggling. However, in less than a breath, Dark Knight Rose made a decision. She smiled sweetly and said, everyone has their own ambitions. However, it is not necessarily impossible for us to work together. There is no need to harm the harmony between us. I will let you win this battle. After saying that, Dark Knight Rose floated back and returned to the lotus flower. Chapter 44-25. Dark Knight Rose returned to the lotus and admitted defeat. Xian Yanqing did not pursue and allowed Dark Knight Rose to leave the fighting ring. In this world, no one knew better than her how terrifying the heaven-devouring Wild Rose was. Although she had the means to counter the Dark Knight Rose if she really wanted to fight, even if she could win, it wouldn't be that easy. She would have to go through a bitter battle. Xian Yanqing won the battle and many people were disappointed. After all, Xian Yanqing had not fought with a 12-star battle strength until now. He was still mysterious and gave off an unfathomable feeling. In this way, it would be difficult to speculate who was stronger and who was weaker among the 7 existences with 12-star battle prowess. After Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose, there were a few more 11-star battles. When the 8th battle of the 9th round began, there was finally another heavyweight battle. Yi Qiuxin versus Yi Ling Hongye. It was another battle between the heavenly human tribe. Facing Yi Qiuxin, Yi Ling Hongye's face was solemn. However, it was impossible for her to admit defeat. Her strength was similar to Yi Chu Tianji's. Yi Chu Tianji had lost to Yi Qiuxin, but it did not mean that she would lose. There were some people who could restrain each other. Moreover, the difference in strength between them was not that big. She might have a chance of winning. Unfortunately, Yi Ling Hongye was disappointed as soon as they exchanged blows. Yi Qiuxin's battle strength was above her expectations. They did not exchange many blows and Yi Ling Hongye was already at a disadvantage. After about 100 blows, Yi Ling Hongye coughed out blood and retreated. She was severely injured. Yi Qiuxin won the battle without any suspense. Yi Qiuxin's strength is really strong. He should have reached the limit of 12-star battle strength. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye should only have average 12-star battle strength. That's right. Among the 7 of them, I still think that Yi Qiuxin has the highest chance of winning. However, Dark Knight Rose and Wan Xin have defeated Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye respectively. Their chances are also very high. Don't forget that the Dark Knight Rose can restrain the ultimate heavenly energy. Yi Qiuxin might not be a match for the Dark Knight Rose. However, the Dark Knight Rose admitted defeat in front of Xian Yanqing. This battle, everyone was discussing and analyzing, but the more they analyzed, the more complicated the situation became. From the looks of it, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were not very competitive, but the same could not be said for the others. Even though Yi Qiuxin's battle prowess seemed to be unparalleled, the venom of the Dark Knight Rose was able to devour the utmost heaven's powers. If they were to fight, it was hard to say who would win. However, Dark Knight Rose seemed to be extremely wary of Xian Yanqing. She directly admitted defeat against Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanqing admitted defeat in front of Lu Ming. As a result, the battle situation became complicated. Even heavenly venerates would find it difficult to determine who would emerge victorious. After the battle between Yi Qiuxin and Yi Ling Hongye, there was nothing worth paying attention to in the 9th round. Lu Ming did not encounter any strong opponents in this round and easily defeated them. Soon the 10th round began. In the 10th round, Lu Ming finally met a decent opponent, Yi Chu Tianji. In the 3rd match of the 10th round, Lu Ming met Yi Chu Tianji. It has finally begun. Lu Ming, the Forbidden Body, has finally met a strong opponent. This match is very important. If Lu Ming can defeat Yi Chu Tianji, it will prove that he has the qualifications to compete for first place. If he is not a match for Yi Chu Tianji, or if they can only fight to a draw, then he will not have the qualifications to compete for first place, even if Wan Xin and Xian Yanqing admit defeat in front of him. That's right. Let's see if Lu Ming can defeat Yi Chu Tianji. Everyone was discussing. When Yi Chu Tianji heard this, he almost vomited blood. What was the meaning of this? This was clearly using him to measure the strength of others. He had become a stepping stone for others. Only by stepping over him would they have the qualifications to compete for first place. He was the strongest son of heaven. Before entering the Taishang Immortal City, he only had one opponent, Yi Ling Hongye, who was able to suppress an era. Who would have thought that he would become a stepping stone for others to measure their strength? Humiliation. Endless humiliation. Lu Ming, I must defeat him. Yi Chu Tianji roared. He needed to win a match and it would be best if he could defeat Lu Ming. Lu Ming had the Forbidden Body. The name of the Forbidden Body had shaken the universe for eons. Only by defeating Lu Ming could he wash away the humiliation on him. Yi Chu Tianji, I'll give you a chance. Admit defeat lest I have to take action. Lu Ming said calmly with a mocking look on his face. Don't even think about it. Yi Chu Tianji's eyes were filled with anger. The aura on his body erupted like a volcano. Brr, brr, brr. 3 types of heaven's force condensed into 3 ferocious beasts. They let out earth-shattering roars and pounced towards Lu Ming. The 3 ferocious beasts were as big as mountains. One of them was formed by heaven's punishment energy. Dense lightning could be seen on its body. Every time it struck, endless lightning would strike out. Its power was terrifying. An 11-star battle power of the same cultivation level would be severely injured in a single strike. The other one was gray and was formed by heaven's extermination energy. The third one was a goshawk. It exuded an extremely sharp aura. It was formed by heaven's punishment energy. The 3 ferocious beasts were as big as mountains. Their violent auras pressed towards Lu Ming crazily. It was as if a few hundred planets were smashing towards Lu Ming. Yi Chu Tianji's battle power was not weak. Even the most ordinary divine master would have to avoid such an attack. Unfortunately, his opponent was even more perverted. Especially Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming activated the battle character art and unleashed his forbidden force. His body soared into the sky and punched out continuously. The fist force left his body and expanded rapidly. It collided with the 3 ferocious beasts. The speed of their attacks was too fast. In just an instant, the 2 sides had exchanged more than 50 blows. Break for me! Lu Ming roared. His aura erupted like a raging tide. His fist force surged and had the power to break through everything. The terrifying power continued to gather and condense. Finally, it exploded with a loud bang. With a loud bang, one of the 3 ferocious beasts formed by Yi Chu Tianji exploded. Yi Chu Tianji's body trembled and he could not help but retreat. As he retreated, Lu Ming's power became even more unrestrained. It was unstoppable. Bam! Bam! The remaining 2 ferocious beasts of Yi Chu Tianji also exploded. The power that Lu Ming had gathered rushed towards Yi Chu Tianji crazily. Yi Chu Tianji's body shook violently. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and his face turned pale. Kill? Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning. His killing intent was like a rainbow as he charged towards Yi Chu Tianji with unparalleled power. He had promised Wan Shen that he would kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting stage. Chapter 44-26. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he charged at Yi Chu Tianji with a chilling killing intent. He swore to kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting ring. Yi Chu Tianji's face revealed a trace of fear as he frantically retreated, wanting to leave the battle ring. After the previous exchange, he knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If he continued to fight, he might be killed by Lu Ming. Therefore, he decided to admit defeat by leaving the fighting ring. You want to leave? Do you think you can? Lu Ming's cold voice rang out as he caught up with Yi Chu Tianji in an instant. He waved his hand and spear radiance shot toward Yi Chu Tianji. Block it! Yi Chu Tianji roared as he used all his strength to attack. He unleashed the 3 supreme heavenly powers to the maximum and formed 3 giant beasts in front of him. As long as he could stop Lu Ming for a few moments, he would be able to fly out of the fighting ring. However, Lu Ming knew what he was thinking. At this moment, light spots lit up all over Lu Ming's body. There were tens of thousands of light spots. Tens of thousands of light spots, each of them incomparably bright, like stars. These were the cells that had been fused with secret skill runes. Lu Ming had activated tens of thousands of secret skills. Countless rays of light filled the air around him. The surrounding spectators all widened their eyes in shock as they witnessed this scene. Oh my God, am I seeing things? These are all secret skills? Yes, they are definitely secret skills. Those that are brighter must be ancient secret skills. Those that are dimmer must be ordinary secret skills. Oh my God, there are more than 1,800 secret skills and tens of thousands of ordinary secret skills. How did he cultivate all of them? How can a person master so many secret skills? Pervert. Countless people exclaimed in disbelief. Ordinary people usually cultivated a few secret skills. It was already good enough if they could cultivate a few secret skills to the greater success level. This was especially true for ancient secret techniques. Not to mention that most of them had already been lost. Even if they still existed, the average person would only cultivate one type of secret technique. They would constantly unearth and comprehend it to develop its might. To be able to cultivate several ancient secret techniques at the same time was already quite impressive, and could be considered a top genius. However, compared to Lu Ming, there was simply a world of difference. The difference was too great. They could not imagine how a person could have so much energy to cultivate so many secret techniques. Even a taboo body would find it difficult to do so. While everyone was still in shock, Lu Ming had already made his move. Great sealing art, great binding art, great cage art, Lu Ming shouted and pushed out with both hands. Various trapping ancient secret techniques were launched at Yi Chu Tianji. This secret technique swept past the three beasts conjured by Yi Chu Tianji and appeared around him. All of a sudden, countless runes appeared from the great sealing art and silently crawled up Yi Chu Tianji's body, covering his entire body. These runes intertwined with each other to form a powerful sealing formation that was about to seal Yi Chu Tianji away. "Break for me!" Yi Chu Tianji roared. All kinds of energy burst out of his body in an attempt to break the great sealing art. However, Lu Ming did not just use the great sealing art. The great binding art created thick vines that looked like they were made of metal and wrapped around Yi Chu Tianji. The great prison technique formed a large prison, trapping Yi Chu Tianji within. Yi Chu Tianji was surrounded by all sorts of ancient secret techniques that were used to trap enemies. Yi Chu Tianji unleashed all his energy in an attempt to break these secret techniques. With his strength, it was not difficult for him to break 1 or 2 secret techniques in an instant. However, it would be difficult for him to break 8 to 10 secret techniques in an instant. What Lu Ming wanted was to trap Yi Chu Tianji for an instant. This was because Lu Ming had already arrived. Whoosh! Lu Ming formed a long spear with his taboo power and stabbed it at Yi Chu Tianji's forehead. It was as fast as lightning and as swift as thunder. It was powerful and shocking. Ah! Break! Break! Yi Chu Tianji roared madly, trying to break open a crack and escape. However, it was too late. Lu Ming's spear light was about to reach him. At this moment he really did want to admit defeat. However, he hesitated the moment he was about to do so. After all, he had previously declared that he would kill Lu Ming. At that time he had been so proud, confident, and arrogant. He had thought that he was invincible and that only Yi Ling Hongye could match him in the entire world. At that time he had not taken Lu Ming seriously. Even if his opponent had a taboo body, he was still confident that he could suppress him. However, not only had he suffered consecutive defeats, but he also had to admit defeat in front of Lu Ming. He could not do it. Because of this hesitation, Lu Ming would not give him a chance. Yi Chu Tianji also lost the chance to admit defeat. Whoosh! The dazzling spear light was faster than lightning and pierced Yi Chu Tianji's forehead. With a puff, Yi Chu Tianji's forehead was directly pierced by the spear light. The terrifying destructive power in the spear light exploded in an instant. Yi Chu Tianji's head exploded and he died on the spot. This scene caused the scene to fall into silence. Many people revealed looks of shock in their eyes. Yi Chu Tianji had been killed. This was the first time that someone with a 12-star battle strength had been killed on the fighting stage. In the previous battles, even if he was no match for Yi Chu, he could still escape. But now Yi Chu Tianji, the once invincible son of heaven of the heavenly palace, had been killed by Lu Ming on the fighting stage. This was extremely shocking. Fortunately, he could be resurrected here. If it was outside, Yi Chu Tianji would have been dead. The once strongest son of heaven of the heavenly human tribe would have completely fallen. After Yi Chu Tianji was killed, his corpse turned into streaks of light and flew back to the lotus. In the next moment, Yi Chu Tianji was reformed. Lu Ming, Yi Chu Tianji stared at Lu Ming with hatred in his eyes. Of course, there was also a trace of fear. Although he had been resurrected, it was true that he had been killed by Lu Ming. He had truly felt the smell of death. That feeling made his heart tremble. Unknowingly, he had developed a trace of fear toward Lu Ming. This was instinctive. Haha, good kill, good kill, good, 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 the myriad god laughed. Previously, Lu Ming had promised him that he would kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting stage. Now he had done it. The strongest son of heaven is just SOSO. Lu Ming held the spear formed by the forbidden power and pointed it at Yi Chu Tianji. His voice was filled with contempt. Damn it, Yi Chu Tianji roared in his heart. The other members of the heavenly human tribe also roared. They either glared at Lu Ming angrily or stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Chapter 44-27. Lu Ming had killed Yi Chu Tianji on the spot. To the heavenly human tribe, this was a great humiliation. Yi Chu Tianji was known as the strongest son of heaven and was one of the 2 strongest people in the younger generation of the heavenly human tribe. He represented the heavenly human tribe. Killing Yi Chu Tianji in public was equivalent to slapping the heavenly human tribe in the face. The heavenly human tribe was naturally displeased. Yi Qiuxian, you must avenge Yi Chu Tianji. Yi Qiuxian, you must kill Lu Ming. Many heavenly human tribe members roared and pinned their hopes on Yi Qiuxian. Yi Qiuxian was the only one in the heavenly human tribe who could deal with Lu Ming. When Lu Ming killed Yi Chu Tianji, he only displayed 12-star combat strength. He did not reveal his 13-star combat strength. Therefore, everyone thought that Lu Ming only had 12-star combat strength. With the combat strength that Yi Qiuxian had displayed, he might be able to deal with Lu Ming. Amidst the hubbub, the competition continued. Next, there were a few battles between 11-star combat strength. After that, the 9th round was over. Soon the 10th round began. The first battle of the 10th round was a heavyweight battle between 12-star combat strength. Wan Xin versus Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming was a little stunned. He did not want to see a battle between Wan Xin and Xian Yanqing. However, according to the rules of the competition, they would meet sooner or later. I hope it won't hurt their friendship. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. However, it was not convenient for him to intervene. One was his best friend and the other was his wife. He did not want to see either of them get hurt. At this time, the surrounding people were also discussing and guessing who was stronger between Wan Xin and Xian Yanqing. Wan Xin had previously defeated Yi Chu Tianji and had already displayed his powerful combat strength. As for Xian Yanqing, he had always been very mysterious. Until now, he had never crossed swords with an existence with 12-star battle prowess. However, when Dark Knight Rose faced Xian Yanqing, she immediately admitted defeat. This made people wonder how strong Xian Yanqing was. They wanted to see Xian Yanqing's strength through this competition. On the battle stage, Wan Xin and Xian Yanqing faced each other. Myriad God looked at Xian Yanqing before looking at Lu Ming. Finally, he shook his head and said, "There's no need to fight this round. I admit defeat." Xian Yanqing was also taken aback. He never expected Myriad Gods to admit defeat so quickly. The surrounding people were also stunned and speechless. He wanted to use this battle to see Xian Yanqing's strength, but he never expected Myriad God to admit defeat again. "I'm friends with Lu Ming and you're Lu Ming's wife. That means we're on the same side. I don't want to fight with my own people. Moreover, you give me the feeling that you're very strong and threatening. Even if we really fight, I don't have the confidence to win. I might as well admit defeat," the Myriad God mumbled before returning to the lotus with a flicker. Xian Yanqing won this battle. The first battle of the 10th round ended in a hurry. They thought there would be an exciting battle, but the result was disappointing. After that, 8 consecutive battles were between 11-star experts or 11-star experts against 12-star experts. It was either not exciting enough or there was no suspense. When it was the 10th battle of the 10th round, the crowd finally began to get excited. This was because this battle was between Yi Qiuxian and Dark Knight Rose. The 2 top experts finally faced off. Regardless of whether it was Yi Qiuxian or Dark Knight Rose, they were both considered to have the highest chance of obtaining first place. Yi Qiuxian defeated Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye consecutively and became the true number 1 expert of the heavenly human tribe. As for Dark Knight Rose, she was a sky-devouring rose flower. She was extremely strange and the poison she produced could even devour the ultimate power of heaven of the heavenly human tribe. Previously, when she fought Yi Ling Hongye, she devoured Yi Ling Hongye's ultimate power of heaven, causing Yi Ling Hongye to become weaker and weaker. In the end, she was defeated by Dark Knight Rose. This caused the crowd to have a guess. Since Dark Knight Rose's poison could devour Yi Ling Hongye's ultimate power of heaven, could it devour Yi Qiuxian's ultimate power of heaven? In theory it could. Since it could devour Yi Ling Hongye's poison, it could also devour Yi Qiuxian's poison. However, Yi Qiuxian's strength was stronger and it was hard to say. Therefore, who was stronger between Dark Knight Rose and Yi Qiuxian had always been the focus of the crowd's discussion. Everyone had their own opinions. However, they had to let the facts speak for themselves. Only when the 2 of them fought would they know who was stronger. Now, they were finally going to face off. After a round of discussion, the crowd quietened down and looked at the fighting ring quietly, waiting for the battle to break out. "Handsome guy from the heavenly human tribe, you are no match for me. Why don't you just admit defeat? We can be friends and get closer in the future." Dark Knight Rose's eyes were like water as she stared at Yi Qiuxian. Her voice was filled with charm. Dark Knight Rose was an outstanding beauty. Whether it was her figure or her appearance, they were the best in the universe. Facing Dark Knight Rose, not many people could resist her temptation. Many of the younger generation around them swallowed their saliva and stared at Dark Knight Rose with their eyes wide open. However, Yi Qiuxian's expression was normal and he was unmoved. "Make your move. Let me see how powerful your poison is." Yi Qiuxian said indifferently. Yi Qiuxian said indifferently. His voice was cold. However, within that cold voice, there was an invincible conviction. How boring and unromantic. Then don't blame me for being heartless. Before she could finish her sentence, Dark Knight Rose made her move. She shouted softly and pushed her hands forward. Suddenly, rays of dark golden light exploded around Yi Qiuxian. These rays of light immediately enveloped Yi Qiuxian. These rays of light were both an attack and a lethal poison. Bam! Yi Qiuxian made his move. The moment he moved, 3 different types of heaven's powers exploded. The 3 types of heaven's powers formed 3 different colored battle swords and slashed out. The sword chi whistled and pierced through the dark golden light. Yi Qiuxian's body rushed out and charged towards Dark Knight Rose at an astonishing speed. The sword chi whistled and hundreds of sword lights slashed towards Dark Knight Rose. Dark Knight Rose's face was solemn. A huge rose appeared in her hand. The rose was dark golden. When the petals opened, the center of the petals was like a strange black hole. It was like a bottomless abyss that was filled with terror. From the black hole, dark golden light rushed out continuously and densely towards Yi Qiuxian. Boom, 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 boom. Both of their attacks collided and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. The 3-colored sword light and the dark golden light collided continuously. The entire fighting ring was covered by various kinds of light. The speed was too fast. In an instant, both of them had exchanged more than 100 moves. However, there was still no clear winner. Chapter 44-28. Kill. Yi Qiuxian roared as he controlled the 3 swords to launch a fierce attack. The sword chi was like a torrential wave that swept towards Dark Knight Rose. The attack was extremely terrifying. It was as though anything that stood in its way would be destroyed mercilessly. The petite Dark Knight Rose looked as though she would be torn into pieces by the boundless sword chi at any time. However, the Dark Knight Rose was as steady as a mountain. The rose in her hand seemed to be emitting boundless dark golden light. It was bursting forth unceasingly, blocking Yi Qiuxian's tide-like sword aura. If this goes on, Yi Qiuxian will be in danger. Someone sighed, winning the approval of the others. Especially those from the heavenly human tribe. Their faces were solemn. Previously, when Dark Knight Rose and Yi Ling Hongye fought, they were in the same state. In the beginning they were evenly matched. However, later on Yi Ling Hongye was poisoned by Dark Knight Rose's poison and the poison started to devour her ultimate heaven energy. Yi Ling Hongye became weaker and was defeated by Dark Knight Rose in the end. The current situation was exactly the same as before. It was obvious that Dark Knight Rose wanted to use the same method to defeat Yi Qiuxian. The longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for Yi Qiuxian. If Yi Qiuxian was defeated, the heavenly human tribe would suffer a crushing defeat. When the news spread across the universe, the heavenly human tribe's reputation would suffer a great blow. Yi Qiuxian had obviously thought of this too. Triple Demise Sword Formation Kill. Yi Qiuxian shouted as his heavenly energy exploded. The 3 swords that were formed by the ultimate heaven energy quickly grew in size and stood tall between the heavens and earth. The 3 swords formed a strange pattern and formed a sword formation. Boom, boom, boom. The heavens and earth shook and the battle stage shook violently. The sword formation formed a gigantic sword light that fell from the sky and pierced towards Dark Knight Rose's head. Terrifying. It was truly terrifying. The power of this move was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the sword chi wave from before. It was obvious that Yi Qiuxian had not used his full strength previously. He had not used his killer move and had only used a normal attack. At this moment, the sword formation was the true killing move. Its power was simply too shocking. The gigantic sword light gave off a strong pressure. Ordinary emperor gods would not be able to block such a sword light. Their minds would have collapsed before they even came into contact with it. Of course, it did not mean that the power of this move had surpassed the 12-star level and reached the 13-star level. Not at all. The further one's cultivation level, the harder it was to raise one's level. Once one's cultivation level, it would be extremely difficult to raise one's cultivation level. But without a doubt, this move had definitely reached the limit of a 12-star battle prowess. Dark Knight Rose will be defeated. Dark Knight Rose will be defeated. Yi Qiuxian is truly astonishing. Even at a time like this, he actually still has a trump card up his sleeve. Once he unleashes his trump card, he will be able to defeat the Dark Knight Rose as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. With that, her poison will be rendered ineffective. Facing this sword, many people cried out in surprise. As for Dark Knight Rose herself, her expression was solemn. Sky, 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 Rose. Dark Knight Rose yelled. Her body emitted a dark golden light. Her body was shrouded in the light. In the next moment, the light disappeared, and the Dark Knight Rose's body also disappeared. What replaced it was an incomparably huge rose. That rose was over 300 meters tall. Furthermore, it was growing at an astonishing speed. It appeared to be exactly the same as the rose that Dark Knight Rose held in her hand earlier. However, its aura was much more terrifying. That was Dark Knight Rose's real body. The real sky-devouring rose. Boom. The huge sword light pierced the heaven-devouring rose, exploding with a shocking boom. Then the sword light vibrated and collapsed. As for the heaven-devouring rose, it shook violently and retreated. However, the roots of the sky-devouring rose extended out and took root in the void, stabilizing its body. Triple sword formation. / Ichioshin shouted, / 3 times. His aura was like thunder. Then the 3 swords in the sword formation vibrated. This time, 3 sword lights appeared and slashed towards Dark Knight Rose. The 3 sword lights were all incomparably large and terrifyingly powerful. They looked as if they were going to crush the sky-devouring rose. However, at this moment, the sky-devouring rose's flower suddenly grew in size. In an instant, it covered the entire sky. The black hole in the middle of the flower was especially large. It was like a giant mouth that devoured humans. A terrifying devouring power erupted from the black hole and bit down on the 3 sword lights. Buzz. The 3 sword lights vibrated non-stop and released sword lights to attack the flower petals. However, they were all devoured by the terrifying devouring power and were all sucked into the black hole. Furthermore, the flower continued to grow in size. Its devouring power continued to erupt and devour the 3 sword lights. It was going to devour the 3 sword lights. The sword lights vibrated and fought against the sky-devouring rose. However, they were no match for the sky-devouring rose and collapsed. After all, it was only 3 sword lights. It was normal for them to not be able to last long. After devouring the 3 sword lights, the sky-devouring rose began to charge towards Ichioshin. It was going to devour Ichioshin and the 3 swords. Ichioshin's gaze was calm. He was under the protection of the 3 swords. At the same time, the 3 swords were arranged in a mysterious trajectory and were rotating continuously. The speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. In the process of rotating, powerful sword lights were formed and slashed towards Dark Knight Rose continuously. For a moment, both sides were in a stalemate. Soon, both sides were in a stalemate for a few minutes. At this moment, a dark golden light suddenly spread out from Ichioshin's body. This dark golden light was like a mist that seeped out from every pore of Ichioshin's body. Ichioshin's body seemed to be dyed with a layer of dark golden paint. Haha, Ichioshin, you've been completely poisoned by my poison. Now the poison is devouring your supreme heavenly power. You're going to lose. Dark Knight Rose's arrogant voice could be heard from the gigantic sky-devouring rose. How could this be? Many heavenly human tribe members turned pale and looked terrible. Ichioshin was going to lose? They found it hard to accept. Ichioshin was extremely powerful. He was already at the limit of a 12-star battle power. Such battle power was enough to dominate the entire universe for an era. However, Dark Knight Rose grew even bigger. After transforming into her true form, her battle power also increased tremendously. During the stalemate between the two, Dark Knight Rose's poison erupted and invaded Ichioshin's body. As such, Ichioshin was likely to follow in Yi Ling Hongye's footsteps. The supreme heavenly power in his body was being devoured. The consequences were imaginable. Is that so? I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Ichioshin said indifferently. His expression was still calm. Chapter 44-29. Even though Dark Knight Rose's poison gas had entered his body, Ichioshin's face was still calm and his voice was filled with confidence. At this moment, Dark Knight Rose's face changed abruptly. What? Why is the ultimate heavenly energy in your body not weakening at all? Dark Knight Rose's voice was filled with shock. Dark Knight Rose had perfect control over her poison gas. She could clearly sense how much of the enemy's energy it had devoured. However, when the poison gas entered Ichioshin's body, she realized that her poison gas did not devour any of Ichioshin's energy. This was impossible. Although the ultimate heavenly energy was powerful and mysterious, her Sky Devourer poison was no small matter. It was unique in the entire universe and could devour endless energy. Previously, Yiling Hongye's ultimate heavenly energy was also devoured by her. However, the ultimate heavenly energy in Yi Qiuxian's body did not seem to be affected at all. No matter how she tried to activate or control the Sky Devourer poison, it was useless. The energy in Yi Qiuxian's body was like a rock that was indestructible. I don't believe that there's any energy in this world that I can't devour other than the forbidden energy. Dark Knight Rose roared. The Sky Devourer rose swayed and more Sky Devourer poison flowed out from the center of the flower and entered Yi Qiuxian's body. However, after a while it was still useless. Dark Knight Rose could feel that she had not devoured any of Yi Qiuxian's energy. Instead, she had used up a lot of energy to release the Sky Devourer poison. How is this possible? Why is the energy in your body so strong? No, the energy in your body is not right. At this moment, Dark Knight Rose seemed to have discovered something and shouted in shock. Let me show you my true strength. Yi Qiuxian's cold and confident voice sounded. At the next moment, boom. A terrifying aura burst out from Yi Qiuxian's body. A vast and majestic energy burst out as if it could destroy everything. The Sky Devourer poison that Dark Knight Rose had used to invade Yi Qiuxian's body was quickly destroyed by this energy. Yi Qiuxian was shrouded by the ultimate heavenly energy. This ultimate heavenly energy had 4 different colors. At this moment, many people couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers. The Dark Knight Rose roared in shock. The gigantic rose kept swaying as if it was shaking. The petals were trembling from the shock. Yes. 4 different utmost heavenly powers. Yi Qiuxian did not control 3 different utmost heavenly powers. Instead, he controlled 4 different utmost heavenly powers. Tianfa, Tianzhu, Tianxia, Tiansha. The heavenly human tribe only had a total of 4 types of supreme heavenly energy. Yi Qiuxian had actually grasped all of them. The scene fell into a deathly silence at first, and then an uproar ensued. Among them, the Celestial Clan's people were the most excited, the most horrified, and also the loudest. Heavens! 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers. Yi Qiuxian has actually mastered 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers. How is this possible? Legend has it that the 4 powers of the heavens are the true perfect powers of the heavens. However, it's extremely difficult to master them. In the history of the heavenly human race, not many people have been able to master them. Too strong. Yi Qiuxian is too strong. Is this Yi Qiuxian's true strength? The heavenly human tribe's people were discussing in shock. Even the exceptional sky prides were trembling. It was unknown if it was because of excitement or envy. There was only one thing in common, and that was shock. They were too shocked. Only the heavenly human tribe could truly understand what it meant to master 4 different utmost heavenly powers. That was perfection, true perfection, the perfect and flawless heavenly powers. Legend had it that in the history of the heavenly human tribe, only 2 people had truly mastered the perfect heavenly powers. One of them was an old ancestor of the heavenly human tribe from countless years ago. No one knew how long it had been since then, and no one knew if he was still alive or not. It was also that old ancestor who had brought the heavenly human tribe to such a prosperous state. The second person was an exceptional prodigy of the heavenly human tribe from 60 stellar years ago. This prodigy from 60 stellar years ago had also mastered 4 utmost heavenly powers and was extremely powerful. Back then he had fought a bloody battle with the taboo race and killed his way to the top. Now, this existence was known as the #1 powerhouse of the heavenly human tribe, suppressing the entire universe. Of course, that was under the condition that some of the old ancestors of the heavenly human tribe did not appear. And now there was a third one. Fortune, the fortune of the heavenly human tribe. In the sky, the heavenly venerables of the heavenly human tribe were also extremely shocked. Then they became excited. All of them trembled with excitement. They knew better than anyone what it meant to master the perfect heavenly powers. This meant that the heavenly human tribe would become stronger and stronger. Countless years ago, an old ancestor of the heavenly human tribe who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers led the heavenly human tribe to overcome all obstacles and finally led the heavenly human tribe to prosperity. 60 stellar years ago, the heavenly human tribe faced a huge crisis. At that time, 2 taboo races and some other heaven-defying prodigies appeared in the universe. They all rebelled against the heavenly palace and wanted to overthrow the heavenly palace. At that time, another prodigy who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers appeared in the heavenly human tribe and fought against the taboo races. In addition, with the help of some old ancestors of the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly human tribe finally protected their position in the universe. The appearance of every existence who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers was of great significance to the heavenly human tribe. This time there was a third one. Did this mean that the heavenly human tribe could finally destroy all the rebels and truly control the Eldritch universe? At that moment, the heavenly venerables thought about many things. The fusion of the four supreme heavenly powers can form the perfect heavenly powers. It's perfect and flawless. Although your poison is powerful, it can't devour my perfect heavenly powers, Yi Qiuxian said calmly. The confidence in his eyes was even stronger. Hearing Yi Qiuxian's words, everyone understood why Dark Knight Rose's poison couldn't do anything to Yi Qiuxian. The perfect heavenly powers were perfect and flawless. It was perfect and flawless. The heaven-devouring poison couldn't be dealt with at all. You have mastered the perfect heavenly powers. Dark Knight Rose's incredulous voice came from the huge rose. 60 stellar years ago, she was Tang Qing's pet and had followed Tang Qing through all the battles. Back then, she had witnessed the prodigy of the heavenly human tribe 60 stellar years ago. That was an existence who could truly compete with the taboo race. He could even suppress the taboo race and was extremely powerful. Facing such an opponent, she was a little scared. Originally, I wanted to save it to deal with the taboo race. I didn't expect it to be exposed so early. Dark Knight Rose, you should be proud, Yi Qiuxian's cold voice sounded. Then he took a step forward. Chapter 44:30. Yi Qiuxian took a step forward and unleashed his perfect heaven's energy, forming a battle sword and slashing towards Dark Knight Rose. Sword chi whizzed through the air, causing the sky to tremble. In the face of this attack, Dark Knight Rose's heart trembled. She felt an immense pressure. However, Dark Knight Rose did not want to give up just like that. Block it. The Dark Knight Rose shouted, and the huge rose started to spin rapidly. The flower was already huge, but it was still growing rapidly. The flower continued to spin, and at the center of the flower, an incomparably powerful devouring force burst out, wanting to devour the battle sword. However, Dark Knight Rose's heart started to sink. This was because the power of Yi Qiuxian's attack was beyond her imagination. As the sword light landed, Dark Knight Rose's attack was extinguished. In the end, the gigantic battle sword landed on the heaven-devouring rose and split the powerful devouring force into two. Boom. The battle sword landed on the flower, causing it to shake violently. Then, the violent sword chi struck the flower, causing it to explode. The petals were being extinguished one by one. In the end, the entire flower was split into two. With a loud bang, the gigantic Dark Knight Rose exploded, revealing Dark Knight Rose's body. Her face was pale as blood flowed out of her mouth. She was forced to retreat. I admit defeat, Dark Knight Rose shouted as she retreated. There was no need to fight anymore. Through that sword strike, she knew very well that she was no match for Yi Qiuxian. There was a huge gap between them. If she continued the fight, she would be killed in the next attack. 13 stars of battle strength. Dark Knight Rose sighed helplessly. She was very clear that Yi Qiuxian's battle prowess had already reached 13 stars. Although there was a difference of 1 star between 13 stars and 12 stars, the difference was huge. There was a legend in the chaotic universe that 12 stars of battle strength was the limit for god emperors. Only the strongest geniuses in the universe could reach 12 stars of battle strength. However, once one surpassed 12 stars and reached 13 stars, their battle strength would increase tremendously. Under the same cultivation level, 13 stars of battle strength could easily crush 12 stars of battle strength. No matter what tactics one used, it would be useless. As for Yi Qiuxian's battle power, it was very clear that he had surpassed 12 stars and reached 13 stars. This was a true peerless genius who was invincible among those of the same level and could suppress the universe. It was rare for even one to appear in countless eras. Dark Knight Rose admitted defeat and left the fighting ring. She returned to the lotus and began to heal herself. Yi Qiuxian's expression was calm as he returned to the lotus. He didn't want to kill Dark Knight Rose, so he let her admit defeat. If he didn't want his opponent to admit defeat, he could have continued to unleash a torrent of attacks after the previous move. His opponent wouldn't even have the chance to admit defeat and would have been killed on the fighting stage. Everyone's gazes landed on Yi Qiuxian. Their eyes were filled with shock and awe. He actually has perfect control over the power of the heavens. Yi Chu Tianji Yi Ling Hongye and the others sighed in their hearts. Their eyes were filled with envy and helplessness. They knew that they could no longer compete with Yi Qiuxian. In the future, Yi Qiuxian would be the undisputed #1 person in this generation of the heavenly human tribe. After this battle, they would have to be respectful to Yi Qiuxian when they saw him again. Even though they had mastered 3 supreme powers of the heavens, 3 supreme powers of the heavens and 4 supreme powers of the heavens were 2 completely different concepts. 3 supreme powers of the heavens were immature and imperfect. 4 supreme powers of the heavens represented perfection. Imperfection and perfection were only 1 step apart, but the difference was like heaven and earth. It was almost impossible to go 1 step further and master 4 supreme powers of the heavens. In the history of the heavenly human tribe, after countless eras, there were still a few people who could master 3 supreme powers of the heavens. Every few eras there would be one. However, in the vast history of the heavenly human tribe, there were only 3 people who could master the perfect power of the heavens. This showed how difficult it was. 3 supreme powers of the heavens would be suppressed and easily defeated when faced with a perfect power of the heavens. After this battle, Yi Qiuxian's status in the heavenly human tribe would increase tremendously. He would definitely be far above them. Even though they were envious and jealous, they knew that they had to change their attitude towards Yi Qiuxian in the future. Otherwise they would be the ones to suffer. This person is indeed terrifying. Lu Ming looked at Yi Qiuxian. His eyes flickered and revealed a trace of shock. Previously he had felt that Yi Qiuxian was not simple. He vaguely gave him a strong sense of pressure. He had always felt that Yi Qiuxian might be hiding his strength. The truth was indeed so. However, even though he was a little shocked, he was not afraid. Instead, there was a strong desire to fight in his eyes. Yi Qiuxian had 13-star battle strength. Wasn't he the same? Both of them had 13-star battle strength. Who was stronger between him and Yi Qiuxian? He would only know after the battle. As if sensing Lu Ming's desire to fight, Yi Qiuxian's gaze turned towards Lu Ming. His sharp gaze was like 2 sharp swords that pierced towards Lu Ming. Forbidden body. I hope you won't disappoint me. Yi Qiuxian spoke, his voice spreading far and wide. Ah. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not reply too much. It was useless to say anything now. They would know after the battle. However, in the eyes of others, Lu Ming's attitude turned into fear and dread. Lu Ming is afraid. He doesn't dare to accept the battle. That's normal. Yi Qiuxian has 13-star battle strength. How long will it take for another 13-star battle strength to appear in the entire Eldritch universe? Even though Lu Ming has a forbidden body, it is impossible for him to have 13-star battle strength. How can he not be afraid when facing Yi Qiuxian? That's right. Yi Qiuxian is undoubtedly the #1 person in the Eldritch universe. Looks like there is no doubt about the #1 person in this battle for the origin seed. Amazing. The heavenly human tribe is indeed the heavenly human tribe. They are still invincible. There were discussions and exclamations all around. Many of the heavenly human tribe could not help but reveal a proud expression. That's right. The heavenly human tribe was still #1 and was still the overlord. Previously, when Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were defeated consecutively, all the members of the heavenly human tribe felt that they had lost face. However, because of Yi Qiuxian, they felt that they had regained their lost face. Because Yi Qiuxian proved that the heavenly human tribe was still invincible. The first place still belonged to the heavenly human tribe. Fuck him. Wan Shen licked his lips and looked at Yi Qiuxian. His eyes flickered with fighting spirit, but he felt a huge pressure in his heart. At the scene, everyone had different thoughts. However, it was undeniable that they were all shocked by Yi Qiuxian. As a result, from the beginning of the last 11 rounds, everyone was a little dazed after a few consecutive battles. It wasn't until another heavyweight confrontation arrived that everyone came back to their senses. Xian Yanqing vs. Yi Ling Hongye. Chapter 44-31. The 5th match of the 11th round was between Xian Yanqing and Yi Ling Hongye. Everyone was looking forward to this match. It was mainly because of Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing had encountered people with 12-star battle prowess 3 times, but he had never really fought. The first time he faced Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing admitted defeat. Later on, when he encountered Dark Knight Rose and Myriad God, Dark Knight Rose and Myriad God also admitted defeat. Xian Yanqing had only fought against people with 11-star battle prowess. He had not fought against anyone with 12-star battle prowess. The others did not know Xian Yanqing's true strength. Now, through the battle with Yi Ling Hongye, they should be able to see some problems. Now, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye had completely become tools for others to measure their strength. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were naturally very unhappy about this. I must defeat this traitor in this battle. Yiling Hongye stared at Xian Yanqing and roared in her heart. She was filled with determination. She swore in her heart that she must win this battle and wash away her shame. This was her last chance to wash away her shame. She had been defeated by Dark Knight Rose and Yi Qiuxian. In addition, Wan Shen and Lu Ming had not fought with her, but Wan Shen and Lu Ming had defeated Yi Chu Tianji one after another. Her battle prowess was about the same as Yi Chu Tianji's. Since Lu Ming and Wan Shen could defeat Yi Chu Tianji, she was most likely no match for them. Now, only Xian Yanqing's battle prowess was unclear. As long as she defeated Xian Yanqing, she could regain some face and not be so humiliated. It seems like you don't want to admit defeat. Then make your move. I'll give you a chance to make your move, Xian Yanqing said. These words directly provoked Yiling Hongye. Lowly person, shut up. Yiling Hongye shouted coldly and rushed towards Xian Yanqing. As she rushed out, she pressed her hands together and the red leaf domain erupted, enveloping Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing seemed to be stunned. He stood there motionless, allowing Hongye's domain to approach. In the next moment, Xian Yanqing was enveloped by the red leaf domain. Great! Seeing this, Yiling Hongye was overjoyed. Once he was enveloped by her red leaf domain, her chances of victory would increase by 20%. They both had 12-star battle prowess, but their chances of victory were increased by 20%. That was a huge difference. I'm definitely going to win this battle. Red leaves of 10,000 kill. Yiling Hongye shouted. Within her red leaf domain, countless red leaves suddenly appeared and flew towards Xian Yanqing. Each of these red leaves was comparable to an incomparably sharp divine weapon, and their power was extremely terrifying. The power of a single piece was already very shocking. But now there were at least 10,000 pieces. With so many red leaves attacking at the same time, one could imagine how powerful they were. Moreover, within the red leaf domain, her attacks would be endless. Just as Xian Yanqing was about to be enveloped by the thousands of red leaves, a black halo suddenly appeared on Xian Yanqing's body. Moreover, the black halo was rapidly expanding. Let's see if your domain is more powerful than mine. Heavenly Demon Domain. Xian Yanqing shouted. The halo on his body was rapidly expanding, enveloping Yiling Hongye in an instant. Zzz. The two domains collided and rubbed against each other, creating ear-piercing sounds. The void was distorted. The thousands of red leaves that were about to attack Xian Yanqing also stopped. They were suspended in mid-air, unable to move forward. You've also mastered a domain? Yiling Hongye's expression changed. 3 types of ultimate heavenly powers erupted wildly, merging into the red leaf domain, trying to break Xian Yanqing's heavenly demon domain. However, it was useless. The two domains continued to clash, but Xian Yanqing's heavenly demon domain did not budge. Your domain is only SOSO. Let me break your domain, Xian Yanqing said. Then a black lotus appeared under her feet. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged on the lotus. Her fingers formed a strange seal and a huge figure appeared on her body. This figure was incomparably huge, but it was not Xian Yanqing's figure. It was a woman's figure, but her appearance could not be seen clearly because she was shrouded in demonic qi. As soon as this figure appeared, Xian Yanqing's heavenly demon domain became more powerful. Suddenly, it suppressed Yiling Hongye's red leaf domain, causing it to tremble and distort. Yiling Hongye's expression changed drastically, revealing a look of shock. In terms of domain, she was actually suppressed. Once her red leaf domain was broken, she would be enveloped by Xian Yanqing's heavenly demon domain. She would be in a passive position and her chances of winning would plummet. Kill? Yiling Hongye shouted. 3 types of ultimate heavenly powers turned into 3 weapons, carrying her towards Xian Yanqing. She wanted to defeat Xian Yanqing in one fell swoop. As long as she defeated Xian Yanqing's domain would be broken. In the blink of an eye, Yiling Hongye was close to Xian Yanqing. At this time, Xian Yanqing also moved. She gently pressed out her right hand, and the huge figure also extended a hand and pressed forward, pressing down on Yiling Hongye. After the huge hand pressed out, it became incomparably black as if it was formed by demonic qi. Heavenly Demon Palm. Boom. The huge demonic palm collided with Yiling Hongye, and there was an earth-shattering explosion. As the energy spread, Yiling Hongye's body frantically retreated. However, the heavenly demon palm did not stop. It continued to press down on Yiling Hongye. How is this possible? Yiling Hongye was extremely shocked. She found that she was no match for Xian Yanqing in a head-on confrontation. She was completely at a disadvantage. In the face of the heavenly demon palm, Yiling Hongye could only continue to use all her strength to resist. However, this time she was even more embarrassed. She staggered back, her face pale. There was a sweet taste in her throat and she spat out a mouthful of blood. This time she was already injured. She had only taken 2 moves head-on, and she was already injured. Obviously the gap between their strength was not small. Heavenly demon palm, suppress for me. Xian Yanqing shouted and continued to attack. The huge figure pressed out its palm again, and another huge heavenly demon palm pressed down on Yiling Hongye like a mountain. Rumble. Before the heavenly demon palm fell, the violent energy had already caused Yiling Hongye's face to change drastically. Clang. There was the sound of a sword. Yiling Hongye fully activated the 3 types of ultimate heavenly powers, and the 3 types of ultimate heavenly powers turned into a large number of blood-red leaves. These leaves intertwined to form a huge battle sword, slashing at the heavenly demon palm, trying to split it open. Bam! The 2 exchanged blows for the 3rd time, and the energy swept out in all directions. In the next moment, the battle sword formed by the blood-red leaves shook violently, and then exploded. The violent energy of the heavenly demon palm pressed down on Yiling Hongye. Yiling Hongye spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body flew back like a sack and fell heavily on the fighting ring. After 3 moves, Yiling Hongye was severely injured. Chapter 44-32. Yiling Hongye was severely injured, and it was even harder for her to maintain the power of the red leaf field. The red leaf field was completely crushed by the heavenly demon field, and it kept collapsing. The power of the heavenly demon field was getting stronger and stronger. In the heavenly demon territory, black lotuses appeared one after another. They were densely packed and filled the void. Yiling Hongye's pupils shrank and she looked terrified. I admit defeat. Yiling Hongye yelled and admitted defeat. There was no need to compete anymore. She knew that Xian Yanqing's combat strength was far above hers. If they continued, she might not be able to get out of the fighting ring, and she would be killed on the fighting ring. With Yiling Hongye's admission of defeat, Xian Yanqing won the battle. However, the result shocked everyone. Xian Yanqing won too easily. What terrifying combat strength! How can Xian Yanqing be so strong? He defeated Yiling Hongye in just a few moves? Could Xian Yanqing's combat strength have also reached 13 stars? Many people discussed in shock. Most importantly, Xian Yanqing had won too easily. How many moves had it been? He defeated Yiling Hongye in just a few moves, which showed the huge gap between them. No, it's not 13 stars. Xian Yanqing's combat strength hasn't reached 13 stars. It should be the limit of 12 stars. That's right. His combat strength should be at the limit of 12 stars, which is far above Yiling Hongye's. However, he shouldn't have won so quickly, mainly because Yiling Hongye was restrained. Both of them controlled fields, but Xian Yanqing's field was stronger, so Yiling Hongye was completely restrained, and her combat strength was greatly reduced. That's why he defeated her so easily. Some divine master-level existences spoke up and analyzed the issue thoroughly. The others were also enlightened. Xian Yanqing's combat strength was indeed above Yiling Hongye's, but it was obviously not normal for him to defeat her in just a few moves. The main reason was that Yiling Hongye was restrained. If Xian Yanqing fought Yichu Tianji, he wouldn't have won so easily. However, everyone was still shocked by Xian Yanqing's battle prowess. Such battle prowess was already extremely terrifying. From the looks of it now, it was only second to Yi Qiuxian and not weaker than the Dark Knight Rose who had unleashed her full battle prowess. No wonder Dark Knight Rose admitted defeat to Xian Yanqing. His combat strength was not inferior to Dark Knight Rose's at all. If he had some means to counter Dark Knight Rose's poison, then it was normal for Dark Knight Rose to be no match for him. What amazing combat strength. This time, Xian Yanqing will definitely have a place in the top 3. That's right. If it wasn't for Yi Qiuxian being so strong, she might even be able to fight for first place. There are too many experts this time. It's really shocking. Many people discussed in shock. Damn it, how is this possible? Yichu Tianji roared. He was the most shocked among the crowd. This was because he had fought with Xian Yanqing before. At that time the two of them were evenly matched. Now that he thought about it, one reason was that he was not countered by Xian Yanqing. The other reason was that Xian Yanqing did not use his full strength at that time. He originally thought that he could be on par with Xian Yanqing. At least, he would not be at the bottom of the 12-star battle prowess. Now he realized that he was gravely mistaken. This made him extremely unhappy. After this battle there were a few more ordinary battles. When it was the 9th battle of the 11th round, it was finally a battle between 12-star battle prowess. Lu Ming against Dark Knight Rose. When the two of them stepped onto the fighting ring, many people were curious and expectant. They were all guessing who would win between Lu Ming and Dark Knight Rose. This was because the battle prowess of the participants had become clearer. Everyone was secretly guessing the specific ranking. For example, everyone was sure that Yi Qiuxian would be in first place. There was almost no suspense. The bottom two were Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongya. As for Xian Yinqing and Dark Knight Rose, everyone believed that they would be in the top 4. The greater suspense was whether Lu Ming or Wan Shen would be in 5th place and not in the top 4. Now Lu Ming was up against Dark Knight Rose. Many things could be seen from this battle. For example, Lu Ming was able to defeat Dark Knight Rose. Needless to say, he would definitely be in the top 4. If Lu Ming was not a match for Dark Knight Rose, it would depend on how far Lu Ming could fight Dark Knight Rose and how the battle prowess he displayed compared to Wan Shen. However, the crowd thought from another perspective. Even Xian Yinqing and Wan Shen had admitted defeat to Lu Ming. As long as Lu Ming was not too bad, he would basically be in the top 4. However, most people did not have high hopes for Lu Ming. They believed that Lu Ming was most likely not a match for Dark Knight Rose. The main reason was that the battle prowess Dark Knight Rose had displayed was too strong. She was definitely at the peak of 12-star. She had forced Yi Qiuxian to reveal his strongest battle prowess. It was very difficult to achieve such a level of battle prowess. Although Lu Ming had a taboo body, the chances of him having such battle prowess were very small. Hence, the crowd did not have high hopes for him. However, there were people who objected. They believed that although Lu Ming might not have the same battle prowess as Dark Knight Rose, he had a taboo body after all. The taboo power was the strongest power in the universe. Dark Knight Rose's heaven-devouring poison might not be able to do anything to the taboo power and would be countered by Lu Ming. It was hard to say who would win. Some people agreed with this view. On the battle stage, Dark Knight Rose looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. She said softly, "Lu Ming, I really didn't expect you to grow to this stage and even have a taboo body. If I had known, I would have eaten you no matter what." Ah. Lu Ming could not help but recall the first time he met Dark Knight Rose in the Taishu dynasty. At that time, Dark Knight Rose showed a strong desire for him, as if she really wanted to eat him. "Unfortunately, you missed that chance. You won't have another chance," Lu Ming said lightly. "Is that so?" Dark Knight Rose's eyes flickered. She looked at Lu Ming and smiled sweetly. "Lu Ming, I don't want to eat you anymore. What I want is a collaboration. Why don't you join us and fight with us? I'll give you whatever you want." As she said that, her beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. Anyone could understand what she meant. Many young men began to breathe heavily. In different directions, Xian Yinqing, Autumn Moon and Ling Yue's gazes all fell on Lu Ming. They wanted to see Lu Ming's reaction. Lu Ming was expressionless. His current mental fortitude was extremely strong. Although Dark Knight Rose was extremely tempting, it could no longer shake his heart. Dark Knight Rose, cut the crap. Do you want to admit defeat or do you want me to do it? Lu Ming said coldly. Sigh, how unromantic. Dark Knight Rose sighed and said, although the taboo power is powerful, it also depends on the person who uses it. In the hands of different people, the difference in power is like heaven and earth. I would like to see how powerful the taboo power you use is. Before she finished speaking, Dark Knight Rose had already rushed towards Lu Ming. Chapter 44-33. The Dark Knight Rose dashed toward Lu Ming at an alarming speed. In the process of dashing out, her body was already filled with a rich dark golden glow. Afterward, a rose appeared from within the glow. Dark Knight Rose turned into her original form and pushed her combat strength to the limit. The rose grew rapidly and the glow filled the sky. The center of the flower was like a huge black hole. It was so dark that one couldn't see the bottom. A powerful devouring force was constantly erupting from it. Hoo, the terrifying devouring force shrouded Lu Ming. At the same time, dark golden rays flew towards Lu Ming like sharp blades. Facing Dark Knight Rose's torrential attacks, Lu Ming was calm. He activated his taboo energy and condensed a long spear in his hand. Whoosh! The long spear shook and stabbed forward. In an instant, dozens of spear shadows flew out and blocked Dark Knight Rose's attacks. Even the powerful devouring force had a few holes in it. Devour. Dark Knight Rose shouted. The rose was still growing. At this moment, it had already covered the entire fighting stage. The huge black hole in the flower was aimed at Lu Ming. The devouring force was constantly erupting, trying to devour Lu Ming. This devouring power was extremely terrifying. If an ordinary expert were to face this devouring power, they would be torn to pieces in an instant, not to mention resisting it. However, Lu Ming wasn't an ordinary expert. He successfully blocked the devouring force. His body was like a nail nailed to the fighting stage. He didn't move at all. He only used his long spear to resist the dark golden glow. In an instant, the two sides had exchanged dozens of blows. At this moment, Lu Ming was completely shrouded in the dark golden glow. Not only that, but the pores on his body were also emitting a dark golden glow. Poison. Lu Ming's body had already been poisoned. Devour. Dark Knight Rose shouted. She controlled the poison, trying to devour Lu Ming's strength. However, in the next moment, Dark Knight Rose's face darkened. She realized that her heaven-devouring poison couldn't shake Lu Ming's taboo energy at all. Although she had expected it, she was still very disappointed when it actually happened. Dark Knight Rose, so this is your heaven-devouring poison. Now it's my turn. Lu Ming's voice sounded. Previously, he had been passively defending and did not launch too strong of an attack because he wanted to test just how powerful the heaven-devouring poison was. It was capable of devouring absolute heavenly energy. However, it was unable to devour perfect heavenly energy. Thus, he wanted to see if the heaven-devouring acute poison was capable of devouring forbidden heavenly energy. This way, he would be able to determine which was stronger between the taboo energy and perfect heaven's energy. Reality proved that the taboo energy was strong enough, definitely not weaker than perfect heaven's power. It successfully blocked the heaven-devouring poison. The heaven-devouring poison couldn't shake the forbidden power. Since he had already tested it out, there was no need to continue. It was time to counterattack. Boom. A powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. A spear light soared into the sky and pierced through the firmament. The spear light grew larger and larger, piercing towards the gigantic heaven-devouring wild rose, wanting to pierce through it. The spear light was huge and indomitable, shocking everyone. What a terrifying attack, what a terrifying power. This power has already reached the limit of 12-star battle prowess. It definitely doesn't feel any weaker than Xian Yanqing's battle prowess. Amazing, there are too many experts this time. At the scene, many people sucked in a breath of cold air and discussed excitedly. That's right, Lu Ming still hadn't revealed his 13-star battle prowess. The battle prowess that he unleashed was the limit of 12-star battle prowess. This was because there was no need to reveal his 13-star battle prowess to deal with Dark Knight Rose. Devour. Dark Knight Rose still didn't want to give up and wanted to resist. She activated the devouring force with all her might. In the middle of the flower, the black hole spun wildly. The violent devouring force erupted like a huge mouth, wanting to devour Lu Ming's spear light. At this moment, the indomitable spear light also blasted into the center of the flower. Rumble. A series of violent roars sounded. The wild rose trembled continuously and then began to explode. One by one, the wild rose withered and flew out. With a final boom, the wild rose completely exploded, revealing Dark Knight Rose's figure again. However, at this moment, Dark Knight Rose's face was pale and there was blood at the corner of her mouth. She had been severely injured by the previous attack. As expected, Dark Knight Rose is no match for him. She's going to lose. The most terrifying thing about Dark Knight Rose is her poison. Coupled with that poison, her battle prowess is at the limit of 12-star battle prowess. However, when the poison loses its effect, her battle prowess will be greatly reduced. It's normal that she isn't a match for Lu Ming. From the looks of it, the second place belongs to Lu Ming. The crowd discussed animatedly. In their hearts, there was a change in the ranking. Lu Ming's battle prowess was beyond everyone's imagination. He was stronger than they expected and defeated Dark Knight Rose head-on. Among the crowd, Yi Qiuxian was definitely stronger than Lu Ming. Other than Yi Qiuxian, Xian Yanqing's battle prowess might not be weaker than Lu Ming's. However, Xian Yanqing had already surrendered in front of Lu Ming previously. Therefore, Lu Ming was already certain that he would be in second place. In the midst of the crowd's discussion, Lu Ming had already stepped forward. The long spear in his hand was buzzing as he locked onto Dark Knight Rose. A powerful aura was constantly exerting pressure on Dark Knight Rose. I admit defeat. In the end, Dark Knight Rose shook her head gently and admitted defeat. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. There was no need for another battle. Dark Knight Rose admitted defeat and left the fighting ring. She returned to the Lotus Flower. Just like that, Lu Ming won all 11 battles and obtained 11 consecutive victories. Until now, only 2 people had obtained 11 consecutive victories. They were Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian. The specific ranking can be guessed. That's right. There's no doubt that Yi Qiuxian will be in first place. As for Lu Ming, there's also no doubt that he will be in second place. In addition, Xian Yinqing and Dark Knight Rose should be in third and fourth place respectively. It's hard to say who will be in fourth place. Wan Xin's strength is unfathomable. He might not lose even if he hasn't fought Dark Knight Rose before. That's right. I think so too. It's hard to say who will be in fourth place. However, there shouldn't be much change in the other rankings. The crowd was discussing the specific ranking again. Am I in second place? Lu Ming muttered in his heart. The corner of his mouth curled into an expectant smile and a strong fighting spirit. Second place wasn't his goal. His goal was to be in first place. Although Yi Qiuxian had a battle prowess of 13 stars, so did Yi Qiuxian. They would only know who was stronger after a battle. After a few more battles, the 11th round came to an end. Soon it was the 12th round. Not long after the 12th round began, there was a battle between 12 stars of battle prowess. They were Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye, the tragic heavenly daughter of heaven. Chapter 44-34. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were almost certain to be the last 2 among the 7 12-star combatants. Now, it was time to see who would be 6th and who would be 7th. Neither of them wanted to be 7th, so they engaged in an intense battle. However, they were old rivals. They had fought many times in the past for the top spot of the heavenly human tribe. Every time there was no clear winner. This time was no different. The 2 of them fought fiercely for more than 1,000 rounds, but there was still no clear winner. Both of them were exhausted and the battle ended in a draw. After this battle there were a few more battles. Finally, there was a battle that everyone wanted to see. It was the battle between Wan Xin and Dark Knight Rose. This was the battle that everyone had been looking forward to for a long time. This battle would show who would be in the top 4. Without any superfluous words, Wan Xin and Dark Knight Rose engaged in an intense battle. Wan Xin was definitely powerful. He was born from the flesh and blood of many primordial divine spirits. He had unparalleled talent and was born with the strongest and most primordial divine power. In addition to his powerful primordial divine body, he had dozens of origin source secret techniques. He was like an invincible war machine. However, the origin of the Sky Devourer Rose was even more shocking. The Sky Devourer poison was extremely terrifying. In the entire universe, there were few powers that it could not devour. Even though Wan Xin's divine power was strong and condensed, it was still restrained by the Sky Devourer poison. As the battle dragged on, the divine power in his body was constantly being devoured. His strength continued to weaken until he was defeated by Dark Knight Rose. Dark Knight Rose won this battle. After this battle, although the battle was not over, everyone had a clear ranking in their hearts. First place Yi Qiuxian. Second place Lu Ming. Third place Xian Yinqing. Fourth place Dark Knight Rose. Fifth place Wan Xin. The last 2 were Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye. Therefore, the crowd wasn't that interested in the rest of the competition because the final result was within their expectations. For example, in the 13th round, Lu Ming fought Yi Ling Hongye. There was almost no suspense. If Lu Ming could easily defeat Yi Chu Tianji, he could also easily defeat Yi Ling Hongye. There was another battle, Yi Qiuxian against Wan Xin. Although the outcome of this battle was within everyone's expectations, the battle at the beginning was still very exciting. Yi Qiuxian did not unleash his 13-star battle strength at the start. Instead, he used 12-star strength to fight Wan Xin. Myriad God was extremely powerful. After exchanging more than 100 blows with Yi Qiuxian was still unable to do anything to Myriad God. And Yi Qiuxian had to use his perfect heaven's power to defeat Wan Xin. On the 14th round, Wan Xin defeated Yi Ling Hongye without much suspense. There was another match, Yi Qiuxian vs Xian Yinqing. In this battle, Yi Qiuxian used his full strength right from the start. 4 types of utmost heaven powers burst forth. Xian Yinqing was even more straightforward. He directly admitted defeat and didn't even fight. Xian Yinqing was very clear that although she had many tricks up her sleeve, she was absolutely no match for Yi Qiuxian. Soon they entered the 15th round. In the 15th round, There was only one battle between 12-star battle prowess. That was Dark Knight Rose versus Yi Chu Tianji. Of course there was no suspense. Dark Knight Rose won. The other matches were all between 11 stars of battle prowess or 11 stars of battle prowess against 12 stars of battle prowess. Lu Ming and the other 12-star battle strength won easily. They did not even have to fight. Their opponents admitted defeat. Then they entered the 16th round. In this round there was only one battle between 12 stars of battle prowess. Xian Yinqing against Yi Chu Tianji. Xian Yinqing won without any surprise. After this battle, among the 12-star battle strength, only Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian did not fight. It was unknown if it was a coincidence or deliberately arranged. The two of them did not meet in the next few rounds. They did not meet in the 17th round, 18th round, 19th round. There were a total of 21 people. Each of them had to fight others. There would be a total of 20 rounds. When it was the last round, the 20th round, Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian finally faced each other. Moreover, it was the first battle of the 20th round. Everyone was a little excited. Do you think Lu Ming will fight with Yi Qiuxian or admit defeat? Someone asked. I think there will definitely be a battle. Legend has it that the Taboo Constitution is a natural enemy of the Heavenly Palace. If he doesn't even dare to fight and admits defeat, it will be a big blow to the morale of the Heaven Destroyer. It will also weaken the invincibility of the Taboo Constitution. I think so too. Even if he can't win, he will definitely fight. Anyway, he won't really die here. He can also train himself. Many people felt that Lu Ming was most likely not a match for Yi Qiuxian. However, he would choose to fight. He would not run away or back down. You're half right. I won't back down and I will win. Lu Ming smiled. He took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring from the lotus. At the same time, Yi Qiuxian also got on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, you won't admit defeat? Yi Qiuxian's first sentence was to ask Lu Ming to admit defeat. No one in this world can make me admit defeat, including you. Lu Ming replied calmly. Ah, is that so? That's great. Let me kill a Taboo Constitution with my own hands. Although you won't really die here. As he spoke, Yi Qiuxian's eyes shone with a fiery light. Since ancient times, the Taboo Constitution had been the nemesis of the Heavenly Palace. For example, the Life Spirit, the Lord of the Heavenly Court, the Lord of the Grand Ancient Celestial Court, Fei Huang, Tang Feng. These people were the nemesis of the Heavenly Palace. They had caused great losses to the Heavenly Palace. All the heavenly humans wanted to kill the Taboo Constitution. Now that he had the chance, how could he not be excited? You want to kill me? Yi Qiuxian, I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Lu Ming replied indifferently. He was in high spirits and was very confident. Don't have the ability? Haha, Lu Ming, show me what you've got. I know you haven't used your full strength before. Let's see how many moves you can take from me. Yi Qiuxian laughed and took a step forward. A violent aura erupted like a volcano. 4 types of supreme heavenly forces appeared and formed a huge battle sword. It slashed down at Lu Ming. The battle sword slashed down as if it wanted to split the entire space into 2. It was extremely powerful. If they were outside the chaotic universe, this sword would definitely be able to split the starry sky into 2 and destroy countless planets. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. A long spear formed in his hand. Then the long spear started to spin rapidly. It shot up into the sky like a drill and rushed towards Yi Qiuxian's battle sword. Clang! Boom! The 2 attacks collided. In an instant, the void shook violently. A destructive force swept out in all directions. Chapter 44-35. Fortunately, there was an invisible barrier around the fighting ring that blocked the energy that was sweeping in all directions. Buzz! The long spear that Lu Ming had formed vibrated continuously before collapsing. Then Lu Ming's body was pushed back until he reached the edge of the fighting ring before he could stabilize himself. His face was a little pale and the blood in his body was in turmoil. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming, is this your full combat strength? If this is all you have, I'm really disappointed. You can't even take 3 of my moves. Yi Qiuxian said coldly. There is indeed a huge gap between 12-star and 13-star combat strength. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. Just now, he had not used his full strength and had only displayed the maximum combat strength of 12-star combat strength. When he exchanged blows with Yi Qiuxian, he was indeed at a disadvantage. What's the hurry? I was just testing the waters. Now it's my turn to attack. Sky-splitting form, kill. Lu Ming growled as the battle character art and taboo energy were fully unleashed. At the same time, he used the sky-splitting form and spear radiance emanated from every pore of his body. Swoosh. He turned into a dazzling spear radiance and pierced towards Yi Qiuxian. This spear was stunning and extremely stunning. It was as though it could pierce through the universe and destroy everything in its path. Its power was much stronger than Lu Ming's previous attacks. When this spear was unleashed, the surrounding spectators were shocked and their eyes widened. Oh my god, this power! Could this be 13-star combat strength? A few exclamations were heard and their voices were filled with disbelief. At this moment, Yi Qiuxian's eyes were filled with excitement. Interesting. Come on. Yi Qiuxian roared as his perfect heavenly powers erupted. This time, 4 battle swords formed around his body. Each of the supreme powers of the heavens formed a battle sword. The 4 battle swords took turns flying towards Lu Ming. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The first of the 4 battle swords had already neared Lu Ming. With a loud boom, it collided with Lu Ming. This time the explosion was earth-shattering. Sword chi and spear radiance swept out in all directions. Yi Qiuxian's first battle sword trembled incessantly before finally collapsing. However, the second sword immediately rushed forward. 4 consecutive swords clashed with Lu Ming. In the end, Yi Qiuxian's 4 swords were all destroyed by Lu Ming. Yi Qiuxian's body staggered backwards. However, the spear light on Lu Ming's body was also destroyed. His body shook violently as he retreated backwards. This move was evenly matched. So you've been hiding your strength. You've actually reached 13-star battle prowess. Yi Qiuxian stared at Lu Ming. His eyes were burning with passion, and his battle intent was extremely strong. It's lonely at the top. Take Tang Feng for example. Many heavenly human tribe experts had died in his hands back then. Until now, many heavenly human tribe members would feel fear at the mention of the taboo sword ancestor Tang Feng's name. They did not want another taboo sword ancestor. Damn it, how could it be? Why is it like this? Yi Chu Qinji, Yi Ling Hongye, Yi Chu Chenyue, and the other heavenly human tribe geniuses who had conflicts with Lu Ming were trembling. Their eyes were full of disbelief. Unwillingness, doubt, and even fear emerged from their hearts. Lu Ming. Di Jinni whispered. The battle sword on his back kept buzzing and jumping. There was also a strong sword intent on his body. However, it was hidden in the end. There was a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. He had always regarded Lu Ming as his opponent and wanted to defeat Lu Ming. However, he now realized that the gap between him and Lu Ming was too big. There was a huge gap between 11-star battle prowess and 13-star battle prowess that was difficult to cross. No matter what his future achievements would be, at least in a battle of the same level, the gap between him and Lu Ming was too big. Anya Rose's delicate body was also trembling. Her eyes were flickering with shock, fear, and doubt. In her previous life, she was Tang Qing's pet and naturally knew Tang Feng. She had seen Tang Feng fight many times and knew how terrifying Tang Feng was. Was the current Lu Ming in existence like that? She kept thinking in her mind. No one knew what she was thinking. Aha, amazing. My brother is indeed different. Wanshin laughed. Dandan and Bubbles also wanted to laugh, but because of their respective tribes, they had some scruples and forcibly held back what they wanted to say. In the blink of an eye, the two had already exchanged more than 300 moves, but there was still no clear winner. Boom. After another collision, the two of them retreated and stood facing each other. At this moment, the battle intent on their bodies had almost solidified. Their gazes were as sharp as divine light as they clashed in the void. Ah, very good. It has been a long time since someone forced me to this extent in a battle of the same level. This is the first time I felt this way ever since I cultivated the perfect power of heaven. Now I'm going to use my most powerful killer move to defeat you. Lu Ming, be proud of it. For Extinction Sky Sword Formation. Yi Qiuxian roared as 4 battle swords flew up into the sky. They formed a strange trajectory that was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Lu Ming's pupils contracted. Yi Qiuxian had used this move before. But previously, it was just 3 types of supreme power of heaven that formed a sword formation. Its power was astonishing. But now, it was 4 types of supreme power of heaven. A perfect sword formation formed by the power of heaven. How terrifying would its power be? Obviously, Yi Qiuxian had not used his full strength in the battle just now. The 4 battle swords vibrated and sword chi shot up into the sky. As they combined, a huge sword light was formed from the sword formation and slashed towards Lu Ming. Before the sword light arrived, Lu Ming could already feel the immense pressure. Sky-breaking style. Lu Ming immediately used his strongest secret skill. His body turned into a spear and clashed with Yi Qiuxian's sword light. Boom. A light pillar shot up into the sky as the spear light and the sword chi clashed. But after a few breaths, the sword chi suddenly surged and suppressed the spear light. The spear light was pushed back and finally, the sword chi wave hit the spear light completely. Bam. The spear light collapsed and Lu Ming's figure retreated. His face was a little pale and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Not good. The faces of the 10,000 gods, Autumn Moon, Xian Yanqing, Dandan, Bubbles and the others changed drastically. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. On the other hand, those from the Heavenly Palace, especially those from the Heavenly Human Tribe, were ecstatic. Lu Ming is no match for him. He's going to lose. In the end, our Heavenly Human Tribe is still stronger. Yi Qiuxian is invincible. What taboo physique? It's nothing in front of our Heavenly Human Tribe. Many celestial beings shouted loudly, venting their own gloominess. Lu Ming, you're going to lose. Sword formation rise. Yi Qiuxian shouted. His figure appeared in the middle of the 4 battle swords and appeared at the core of the sword formation. He formed a seal with both hands and this time, 4 huge sword lights were formed and slashed towards Lu Ming with unparalleled force. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. His expression was extremely grave. He activated the energy in his body to the extreme. He squeezed out all his energy and continued to activate the heaven-splitting style. His entire being had completely transformed into a long spear, dashing toward the sky. Boom. The spear collided with one of the sword lights and there was an earth-shattering explosion. Then the spear vibrated and was sent flying. The second sword light had already slashed down. When the spear collided with the second sword light, the spear vibrated even more violently and was also sent flying. Then the third and fourth sword lights slashed down one after another. The entire fighting ring was enveloped by the sword formation and it was impossible to dodge. He could only take it head-on. Block it. Lu Ming roared and braced himself to block it. Boom. After 2 booming sounds, the long spear was cut into 2 at the waist. It then dissipated, revealing Lu Ming's true body. Lu Ming's body smashed into the fighting ring like a cannonball, causing the fighting ring to shake violently. Lu Ming spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and his face was pale. There were several sword wounds on his body. The wounds were very deep and even his bones were broken. His body was almost cut into several pieces. Energy constantly flowed out of the 60 trillion cells in his body, repairing his injuries. However, his aura was still a little weak. That move just now had seriously injured him. At least a few trillion cells had been annihilated in an instant. What a terrifying power. Yi Qiuxian's full power is almost at the peak of 13 star. Lu Ming thought to himself and his face was extremely solemn. His battle prowess had just reached 13 star. The power of Yi Qiuxian's 4 extinction heavenly sword formation was almost at the peak of 13 star. Such combat strength was completely above Lu Ming's. What should I do? Lu Ming's mind raced as he tried to think of a solution. Ever since Lu Ming started cultivating, Yi Qiuxian was the strongest among his peers. He had never fought so hard against an opponent of the same level. Yi Qiuxian, who controlled the perfect power of heaven, was truly the strongest in the universe. The perfect power of heaven was said to be able to suppress even taboos. Only very few taboos could contend against it. This wasn't just a saying, it was really too strong. Of course, there was another reason. Yi Qiuxian had probably reached the 13-star level for a long time. The 4 extinction heavenly sword formation had been cultivated to the great success stage. Its power was extremely shocking, causing Yi Qiuxian's combat strength to almost reach the pinnacle of the 13-star level. As for Lu Ming, it hadn't been long since he reached the 13-star level, so he didn't have much time to strengthen himself. If Lu Ming was given more time to cultivate more secret techniques, then his combat strength would increase even more. It wouldn't be impossible for him to reach the limit of the 13-star level. Lu Ming's disadvantage was that the time he had to cultivate was too short. After all, when he entered the Taishang Immortal City, he was only a deity emperor, not a divine emperor. As for Yi Qiuxian, when he entered the Taishang Immortal City, he had already reached the 6th layer of the divine emperor realm. He had even accumulated a lot of energy and could break through to the Divine Master realm at any time. In fact, many of the people fighting for the origin seeds had already reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Divine Emperor realm. They could already break through to the Divine Master realm. Yi Qiuxin, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were the same. Xian Yinqing and Dark Knight Rose were also the same. After all, when they entered the Taishang Immortal City, their cultivation had already reached the 6th or 7th layer of the Divine Emperor realm. After entering the Taishang Immortal City with the help of the Desolate Pill, their cultivation had already reached the 9th layer of the Divine Emperor realm. The reason why they hadn't broken through was because they had deliberately suppressed their cultivation. Once they broke through to the Divine Master realm, they would only be a low-level Divine Master. How could they compete with the Lord of Heaven? Therefore, they had deliberately suppressed their cultivation to the peak of the 9th layer of the Divine Emperor realm. Their goal was to fight for the origin seeds. As long as they could condense the origin seeds, once they broke through to the Divine Master realm, their cultivation would increase quickly. Lu Ming had broken through to the 9th layer of the Divine Emperor realm from the peak of the Divine Emperor realm in a short period of time. However, it was normal that his battle strength was not as strong as Yi Qiuxian's. Lu Ming, I'll give you a chance. Admit defeat. Chapter 44-40. A heavenly venerable shouted, waking up many people from the heavenly human tribe, especially some of the young and middle-aged men. These people shuddered and woke up. Then they broke out in cold sweat. Just now they had almost lost their faith, leaving behind a heart demon in their hearts. The consequences of that were very serious. It would severely affect their cultivation in the future, making it difficult for them to improve their cultivation. Those geniuses at the 9th layer of the God Emperor realm might be trapped in the 9th layer of the God Emperor realm forever. Fortunately, a heavenly venerable woke them up in time. Similarly, the people from the Heaven Destroyer were overjoyed. Lu Ming could be considered as a member of the Heaven Destroyer now. Now that he had killed Yi Qiuxian, it greatly increased the prestige of the Heaven Destroyer and destroyed the morale of the heavenly human tribe. In the void, Fei Huang smiled and muttered to herself, I was right about him. This kid's future is limitless. Even I can't see through him. Amazing. The person that junior sister likes is indeed extraordinary. This kid can't be comparable to Master in the future, right? The third demon sword also muttered. However, he still had a smile on his face. He was happy for Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. The other Origin Realm experts from the Heaven Destroyer also smiled. After this battle, there was no doubt that Lu Ming would take first place. At this moment, Yi Qiuxian's body reformed on the lotus. At the beginning, when he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. But very soon he hid it and became calm. Lu Ming, this is only our first battle. We will have many chances in the future. I will definitely defeat you in the next battle. Yi Qiuxian said calmly. He had regained his confidence. This guy is very scary. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. As a peerless genius who had mastered the perfect force of heaven, he was regarded as the most powerful person in the universe. Suddenly he was killed by Lu Ming on the battle stage. This was a huge blow to him. After suffering such a huge blow, Yi Qiuxian was able to recover in such a short time. One had to admit that this person's temperament was very terrifying. No wonder he was able to cultivate the perfect power of the heavens. I'll wait for your next battle. Lu Ming responded calmly. Although Yi Qiuxian was strong, he was also very confident. No one had ever been able to surpass him after being defeated by him once. Not in the past and not in the future. This was his belief of being invincible. Yi Qiuxian did not say anything more. His expression was calm. He knew very well that people like them all had incomparably firm beliefs. They all had their own paths that they were determined to walk. No matter how much others said, it was useless. After the battle between Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian, there were still 9 more matches. However, not many people were paying attention to them. This was because there weren't any more battles that were worth paying attention to. Not long after, the battle for the origin seed of the God Emperor realm came to an end. This battle was really full of ups and downs, making many people feel great in their hearts. That was because no one had been able to guess the result of this battle. The battle situation was unpredictable. Every round there would be huge changes. It wasn't until the final round that the true result was revealed. Many people's hearts had been on edge the entire time. When all the God Emperor realm battles had ended, the old voice rang out again. The God Emperor realm battles have all ended. Alright, I will now announce the specific rankings. First place Lu Ming. Second place Yi Qiuxian. Third place Xian Yanqing. Fourth place Dark Knight Rose. First place you can enter the highest rank. Second to fourth place you can enter the second rank. Fifth place Wan Xin. Yi Chu Qinji and Yi Ling Hongye are both sixth place. The old voice continued to announce the names from the 5th to the 13th. This was because these 9 people could enter the third rank. Without a doubt, Bubbles and Autumn Moon had entered the top 13. They had obtained the third rank, the same rank as Yi Chu Tianji and the rest. This made Yi Chu Tianji extremely displeased. He used to be known as the strongest son of heaven with a 12-star battle strength, but now he was in the same rank as some 11-star battle strength people. In his opinion, this was a great humiliation. It's all because of these guys. Yi Chu Tianji's cold gaze swept over Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen and the rest. In his opinion, it was all their fault. If these people had not blocked his path, his ranking would not have been so low. He would have at least entered the top 4. Now I will send you to the Cosmic Sea. How much you can gain will depend on yourselves. The old voice rang out. Lu Ming and the rest were looking forward to it. What exactly was the Cosmic Sea that could help one comprehend the origin seed? They were all very curious and looking forward to it. As soon as the old voice finished speaking, the lotus roots under the feet of Lu Ming and the rest started to grow crazily. There was a total of 130 people. The lotus roots under their feet kept growing taller and taller, sending them into the sky. About a few minutes later, the lotus roots stopped growing and came to a stop. As for the height of the 130 people, there was an obvious change as well. Lu Ming was high and mighty. He sat at the highest point and looked down at the others. Below him were Yi Qiuxian, Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose. However, their height was about 10,000 feet shorter than Lu Ming. This was the second rank. Further down was the third rank. It was Wan Xin, Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, Bubbles, Autumn Moon, Di Jinni and the rest. Chapter 44-41. This feeling is so familiar. It's the feeling of the primitive universe. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He felt that the area he was in gave him a very familiar feeling. This feeling was exactly the same as the feeling the primitive universe gave him. Are these stars? There are also nebulas, galaxies, star regions. Lu Ming looked carefully and found that there were endless stars rotating in the area he was in. There were also galaxies and star regions. And he had become extremely huge. It was as if his palm could cover a star region. And between these galaxies and star regions, there were some multicolored lights. These multicolored lights seemed to be a special kind of energy. They were vast and unfathomable, high and mighty. Lu Ming was familiar with this kind of energy. This was because he could sense it from Origin Realm figures. Also, he could sense a similar aura from the Origin Realm Ancient Characters Battle and Quantity. Origin. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Was this the origin? This kind of origin was very clear. Lu Ming stretched out his hand to grab the origin and could clearly feel the touch. It was really unbelievable that he could directly come into contact with the origin here. In the primitive universe, the origin was a mysterious and illusory thing. It could only be comprehended, but it could not be touched or captured. But here he could actually come into contact with it. How easy and fast would it be to comprehend it like this? As expected of the Cosmic Sea. It was indeed mysterious and unfathomable. It was no wonder that many people wanted to come here. They would rather suppress their cultivation and not break through to compete. What's further away? After sizing it up for a while, Lu Ming was curious again. He found that this area had a boundary. There was a boundary in all directions, and the places further away were enveloped by multicolored lights. It was impossible to see what was behind the multicolored lights. And the places further away gave Lu Ming a strange feeling. The aura was completely different from the aura of the primitive universe. Lu Ming was puzzled. As Shaoqing, Autumn Moon. Suddenly Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Not far away he saw Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Myriad God, Bubbles and company. Lu Ming. Xian Yinxing, Autumn Moon, and the others also saw Lu Ming. They were overjoyed and flew over. However, Lu Ming immediately discovered a problem. He realized that the bodies of Xian Yinxing, Autumn Moon, and the others were much dimmer and more illusory than his. His body was very solid, as if it had materialized. As for Xian Yinxing and the others, they were obviously much more illusory. Xian Yinxing was still alright, especially Myriad God, Autumn Moon, and company. They were a little hazy and it was obvious that they were not corporeal. Could it be that this is the result of being in a different position? Lu Ming's heart stirred. That was very likely the case. Of course, this was also related to Lu Ming's position in the first grade. His body was the most solid, and his perception of the origins was the clearest. The others did not have such an effect. Lu Ming collected his thoughts and began to comprehend wholeheartedly. Outside the Grand Supreme Immortal City, everyone only saw Lu Ming and the others sitting cross-legged on the lotus, enveloped by the multicolored light of the lotus, cultivating with their eyes closed. Other than that, there was no abnormality, just like those almighty masters. At this moment, the competition for those below the Almighty God Emperor level had also begun. After nearly a year of competition, the results for those below the Almighty God Emperor level had been decided, and a portion of them had successfully connected to the Cosmic Sea. However, whether the method they used to enter the Cosmic Sea was the same as Lu Ming and the others, and whether the effect would be the same, was unknown. This was because Lu Ming and the others had only seen the Almighty God Emperor level existences from beginning to end. They did not see any existences of other realms. Time passed quickly and year after year passed. In the blink of an eye, more than 900 years had passed. The 1,000-year time limit for the Grand Supreme Immortal City to leave was getting closer and closer. In the blink of an eye, there were less than 10 years left before the Grand Supreme Immortal City would leave. Suddenly, boom! A terrifying aura erupted, shaking the heavens and the earth. This aura came from those almighty masters who were connected to the Cosmic Sea. Everyone's gaze turned in that direction. What a terrifying aura. This aura is simply earth-shattering. It's like a universe. The primitive universe is ancient, powerful, and shocking. Some of the people with lower cultivation levels shouted in horror. Every additional one was extremely important. There were over 10,000 powerful races on the desolate universe's myriad races, but only the top 10 races possessed reciprocity experts. Of course, other races might possess reciprocity experts as well, but they would be extremely rare as phoenix feathers or Qilin horns. If the Heaven Destroyer could gain another reciprocity expert, it would be great news for the Heaven Destroyer. The people on Heaven Destroyer's side were very happy and secretly hoped that this person would succeed in breaking through. As for the Heavenly Human Tribe, they were praying that this person would fail. The burly figure let out a loud roar as his body left the lotus and floated in the void. Then, his body started to expand rapidly. In the end, he turned into an indomitable figure. This was a primordial divine spirit, a pure primordial divine spirit. He had the head of a dragon and the body of a human. He was extremely huge and a vast aura spread out in all directions. He roared at the sky as he tried to break through to reciprocity. Lord Longfan is about to break through to reciprocity and become an over-god. There were a few primordial divine spirits in the surroundings. They were all divine masters and they were all excited. An over-god was the highest level of primordial divine spirits. It was equivalent to a source venerate or a heavenly venerate of the heavenly human tribe. Longfan was the name of the primordial divine spirit who was trying to break through to reciprocity. He was an existence who had lived since the incipient god era. He was extremely powerful and had accumulated a lot of power. This time he had connected to the Cosmic Sea and obtained its help to break through the bottleneck and attempt to break through to reciprocity. Of course, breaking through to reciprocity did not mean that he would succeed. Failure often meant death, so many people were very nervous. Longfan roared continuously. His indomitable body swelled up like a balloon as if it would explode at any time. His aura became more and more terrifying. Everyone waited and watched. They knew that this was the critical moment of the breakthrough. Either he would succeed or he would fail. However, Longfan was still under the protection of the Taishang Immortal City. No one could affect his breakthrough. Otherwise, the people of the Heavenly Palace would have taken action long ago to interrupt Longfan's breakthrough. Now they could only watch helplessly. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. At this moment Long Fan's aura had reached its peak. The void was constantly trembling under his aura. However, the others who were connected to the cosmic sea on their respective lotuses were not affected at all. They were enveloped by the light of the lotuses, which cut off all senses of the outside world. The people outside could not attack them and they could not sense what was happening outside. Therefore the others, including Lu Ming and the others, were still quietly cultivating. Break! Suddenly Long Fan roared. His long hair fluttered, and his originally powerful aura suddenly increased by a notch. Buzz! At this moment, everyone felt as though the entire universe was trembling. Then a shocking scene appeared. All the stars in the universe shone brightly at this moment. All the stars were several times brighter than before. Then, from all over the universe, rays of light rushed in this direction. They were too fast. In just a few breaths, they had crossed the endless universe and rushed into Long Fan's body. This is the resonance of the universe. He succeeded in breaking through. Someone exclaimed. The hearts of the others were beating wildly. Legend had it that the universe would resonate when one broke through to the origin realm. The stars would shine as if they were cheering. Just now, such a phenomenon had appeared. This was enough to show that Long Fan had succeeded in breaking through. If he failed, he would not resonate with the universe. Origin was the most fundamental thing in the universe. Once one broke through and controlled the origin, one's lifespan would coexist with the universe. Every action would be closely related to the universe. Therefore, it could cause the universe to resonate. It was said that when someone in the origin realm died, the universe would also resonate. Long Fan was enveloped by the endless rays of light from all over the universe. These rays of light all merged into Long Fan's body in the end, forming a golden mark between Long Fan's eyebrows. The golden imprint flashed and disappeared. After controlling an origin, Long Fan has officially become an over-god. Fei Huang smiled faintly. Chapter 44-43. Long Fan had officially stepped into the origin realm, and the Heaven Destroyer had gained another peak powerhouse. This made the people of the Heaven Destroyer overjoyed. Some were happy while others were sad. The people of the heavenly human tribe had gloomy expressions. In particular, the Divine Lord existences looked at Long Fan with complicated expressions. They were originally in the same realm as Long Fan. Although Long Fan was strong, they were on the same level. But now, Long Fan had leaped through the Dragon's Gate and reached the origin realm in one fell swoop. He was no longer someone they could compare to. As long as the origin realm was not killed, they could live as long as the universe. As long as the universe was not destroyed, the origin realm would not be destroyed. Only when the epoch changed and the universe was destroyed would the origin realm be destroyed. This was the ultimate goal of countless beings in the universe. No matter how strong the Divine Lord was, they could not withstand a single blow from the origin realm. Slowly the cosmic phenomenon disappeared. Long Fan's aura stabilized, and his body returned to its normal size. He opened his eyes. His gaze was like a divine sword that pierced through the void. Then he took a step forward and rushed out of the area covered by the light barrier, appearing beside Fei Huang and the others. He had broken through and reached the origin realm. He had lost the right to continue comprehending the origin realm. Long Fan, congratulations. Fei Huang, the third demon sword, and the others came to congratulate him with smiles. I would also like to thank all of you for your help and support. Long Fan clasped his fist in return. He was very polite, but his expression was more relaxed. He was not as restrained as before. He was only a divine lord in the past. Although he had lived for countless years, he was much older than Fei Huang and the others. But Cultivation knew that those who reached the origin realm were the seniors. Fei Huang and the others were far above him. In the past, he had to be respectful in front of Fei Huang and the others. Now there was no need. He was also in the same realm. He could talk to them as equals. Time passed slowly amidst the congratulations from the Heaven Destroyer. Soon the scene returned to calm. They continued to wait. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Buzz. At this moment, the Taishang immortal city trembled slightly. Mysterious patterns flashed on it. Then the light barrier that covered Lu Ming and the others disappeared. The lotus flowers under the feet of Lu Ming and the others also disappeared. Initially, Lu Ming was focused on comprehending the origin in the universe sea. All of a sudden he felt a powerful force pulling him toward a certain direction. The speed was beyond his imagination. Before Lu Ming could react, he felt his body tremble. He couldn't help but open his eyes. He was back. Lu Ming found that he had already left the cosmic sea and returned to the primitive universe, returning to the sky above the highest supreme immortal city. 950 years have passed? So fast. Lu Ming's heart stirred. When he was cultivating in cosmic ocean, he could not feel the passage of time at all. He felt that he had only been cultivating for a short period of time. Unexpectedly, more than 900 years had passed. How is your comprehension of the origin source coming along? With a thought, Lu Ming quickly used his inner perception to check the situation. In the next moment he discovered a bright ball of light in his divine sense. This was a round bead about the size of a longan fruit. It was neither gold nor stone, and it was circulating with a mysterious aura. Origin source. Lu Ming sensed it and knew that the aura circulating on the longan fruit was the aura of the origin source. It was very dense and condensed. Origin source seed. This was the origin source seed. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He had condensed the origin source seed. On the origin source seed, the power of the origin source turned into countless tiny threads that flowed through Lu Ming's body, nourishing Lu Ming and improving Lu Ming at all times. With the nourishment of the origin source, Lu Ming could come into contact with the origin source at all times. This was very helpful for his future cultivation. When he broke through from the Divine Master Realm to the Origin Realm, the help would be even greater. It was equivalent to having a foundation in advance. It would naturally be much easier for him to break through than others. Lu Ming's mind stirred and he began to control the origin source seed. Immediately, the power of the origin source seed poured into Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming had a feeling that his hands were now filled with terrifying destructive power. The power of the origin source seed can be used to attack. That's great. Lu Ming was overjoyed. But soon Lu Ming calmed down. After all, this was just an origin source seed. The power of the origin source it contained was very little. Even if it could be used to attack, Lu Ming estimated that it could only be used for one attack. After one attack, the power of the origin source seed would be exhausted and need to slowly recover. Therefore, this could not be used as a common method to fight enemies. It could only be used as a trump card at a critical moment. However, even if it only had the power for one attack, Lu Ming was still secretly delighted. This was the power of the origin source. How powerful was the power that only people at the level of a heavenly venerable lord and a Xinyuan venerable could control? Lu Ming was very curious about how powerful this attack would be. He was also looking forward to it. Unfortunately, he could not try it now. However, Lu Ming was sure that it would definitely be much more terrifying than his current strongest attack. Otherwise, how could he live up to the name, Origin Source? Collecting his thoughts, Lu Ming looked around. Yi Qiuxin, Xian Yanqing, Qiu Qiu Moon and the others had already woken up. Like Lu Ming, they all checked with their inner senses. Most of them smiled after checking it out. However, there were also a few people who looked gloomy and even wailed. I didn't get anything. My origin source seed. Where's the origin source seed? Did I fail to comprehend it? Impossible, impossible. No, this is not the result I wanted. No, some people wailed and wailed. Clearly, these people had failed to comprehend the origin source seed and did not condense it. They had fought so hard in hopes of condensing the origin source seed and increasing their potential. Not only did they want to reach the Divine Master Realm in the future, but they also wanted to comprehend the origin source realm. However, they had failed to condense the origin source seed. Like the others, it would not be so easy for them to reach the origin source realm in the future. They had originally held great hope, but it turned into despair in the end. This difference was unbearable for these people. Let's go. Let's go near Senior Fei Huang and the others. Lu Ming sent a message to Xian Yanqing, Qiu Qiu Moon and the others. Then they all flew toward Fei Huang and the others. Now they were still within the range of the Taishang Immortal City. Everyone was suppressed. The people of the heavenly human tribe naturally did not dare to make a move. However, 1,000 years had passed. The Taishang Immortal City could leave at any time. At that time, the people of the heavenly human tribe would probably make a move. Therefore, they could only guarantee their safety by going to Fei Huang and the others. Lu Ming, let's meet again in the future. Brother Lu Ming, I'll find a chance to see you in the future. Dandan and Bubbles did not follow Lu Ming and the others. Instead, they sent a message to Lu Ming and returned to the experts of their respective races. The World Turtle Clan and the Spacetime Spirit Mouse Clan naturally sent experts. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.